Hi everyone, hope you all must be doing great. So let's start with the second part for TDS revision. In the first part, we have discussed some sections of TDS. We discussed section 193. 193 is interest on securities, 10% rate of TDS. 194 dividend. 194A interest other than securities like bank interest or FD interest and all. 194A is interest other than securities. Then we also discussed 194K. Do you remember the section 194K? If you have mutual fund units in the mutual fund company pays you income, then they are going to deduct 10% TDS if the amount of income which is more than 5,000 rupees. The threshold limit is 5,000 rupees over here. Okay. We have discussed those three sections also of casual income where the rate of TDS is 30%. What are those sections? 194B, game show, quiz, etc., betting, gambling. 194B, if the total amount which you are receiving is more than 10,000 rupees, then TDS will be deducted. 30% rate. 194BB, horse races, and new section which is inserted, that is 194BA, which is related to online gaming, right? In online gaming, when the TDS should be deducted, whenever you withdraw the amount from that particular application, TDS will be deducted, and also at the end of the year, TDS will be deducted. 194B, 30% on net winning. Okay, let's move on to other sections. So another section is 194C. It's a very important section. If you come to page number 11.8, it is mentioned over here. 194C. This is related to payment to contractor. Let's say if you give any contract to any person. So this is 194C. It says that if you give, let's say this is person Mr. Let's say it's a company ABC Limited. They would like to get their advertisement done, right? There could be any type of contract. Let me take the example of advertisement. ABC Limited wants to get their advertisement. So they approaches someone. This is Mr. X and he is engaged in the business of advertisement. So ABC Limited gives a contract to Mr. X. Please get, we would like to get our advertisement done in our city. Please place some hoardings, any type of advertisement. They have approached Mr. X. So we are paying to Mr. X. X is getting an income, right? So this is a contract. In section 194C, we are going to deduct a TDS. What is the rate of TDS under 194C? It is either 1% or 2%. So there are two rates of TDS in 194C. At some places you will apply 1% and some places you will apply 2%. It depends upon whom. It depends upon the contractor to whom we are making the payment. To whom we are making the payment. So we are making a payment to Mr. X. If this particular contractor is an individual or HUF, the rate of TDS will be 1%. But let's say this ABC Limited, they would like to get their advertisement done or any work done, and they give a contract to, let's say, XYZ Private Limited. They are giving a contract to a company, which is not an individual or HUF. I can say other than individual and HUF, then the rate of TDS will be 2%. Got it? So I believe that this is very simple and logical. Whenever you will be giving amount, the contractor should be individual or HUF. The rate of TDS will be 1%. And in other cases, let's say ABC Limited is giving a contract to a partnership firm. They have given a contract. 194C will apply. Rate of TDS here will be 2%. Why 2%? It is not individual or HUF, right? So it depends upon the payer or the receiver. It depends upon the receiver. If the receiver is individual or HUF, 1%. Other than individual or HUF, it would be 2%, right? Second important thing is that 194C will come into picture if you are giving a contract which is more than 30,000 rupees. So if you are making a single payment, the threshold limit is 30,000. If you are making a payment of, let's say 20,000, 25,000, it's a contract of less than 30,000 or 30,000 exact also, then TDS will not be deducted. But if the contract, if you have given a contract of more than 30,000 rupees, let's say the contract is 31,000, then TDS will be deducted on the entire amount, on entire 31,000, 1% or 2%, it depends upon that contractor, right? Got it? Simple. So the threshold limit is 30,000. But let's say we give a contract, this is ABC Limited, they give a contract, this is previous year, 23-24. And let's say in the month of April 23, we have given a contract to Mr. X. ABC Limited has given a contract to Mr. X of rupees 25,000. Tell me how much TDS will be deducted in this case? No TDS. Why? Because the amount is not more than 30,000 rupees. So we will not going to give deduct any TDS. We will simply pay 25,000 to Mr. X. Let's say in the month of June also, in the month of June 23, now we are giving a contract of rupees 30,000 to Mr. X again. Again, we are giving a contract of 30,000 to Mr. X. How much TDS will be deducted? No TDS. Why? Because we are making a payment which is not more than 30,000 rupees. The contract amount was not more than 30,000. There will be no TDS here also. And initially there was no TDS, right? In the month of, let's say, July 23, we are again giving him a contract of rupees, let's say, 28,000. How much would be TDS? No TDS. Why? Because the amount is not more than 30,000 rupees. In the month of, let's say, October 23, we are again giving him a contract of rupees, let's say, 29,000. Now, the total payment which we are making to Mr. X during the year, there are case of multiple contracts. So in case there is a case of multiple contracts, and if the aggregate of such multiple contracts exceeds 1 lakh rupees, then TDS will come into picture. So I can say, to summarize it, I can say for single payment, we have to see 30,000 rupees. For single contract, we have to see 30,000 rupees. And if there are multiple contracts, then we have to we have to see the aggregate of that payment. So if the aggregate is more than 1 lakh, so now if you will aggregate 25 plus 30 plus 28, till here, it was not exceeding 1 lakh. So we have not deducted any TDS. But here in the month of October, when we have given a contract of 29,000 rupees, now my aggregate comes to more than 1 lakh. How much it is? 25,000, 30,000, 28 plus 29. Now it is 1 lakh 12,000. If you aggregate it, so it is now coming to 1 lakh 12,000 rupees. Now, because this aggregate, multiple contracts aggregate is more than 1 lakh rupees, now you will be deducting TDS. And how much you will be deducting TDS? So will you be deducting one, let's say this person is individual or HUF, 1% rate will apply. So will you be deducting 1% on 29,000? No. The entire payment which you have made during this year, during this previous year, the entire payment which we have made earlier also, we will take that into consideration also. So here whenever we will be paying this person 29,000 rupees, we will deduct 1% TDS on 1,12,000. How much it would be 1,12,000? This will be 1,120 amount we will be deducting. So here, if I look at practically, here when we have made a payment of 25,000, there was no TDS deducted. So here we have made the payment of 25,000 straight, no deduction. Here also we have made the payment of 30,000, there was no deduction. Here also we have made the payment of 28,000, there was no TDS. But here, whenever we will be paying this 29,000 amount, we will be deducting 1,120 out of it, and the remaining amount, which comes to 27,880, we will be making the payment to Mr. X here in the month of October 23. Whenever we will be paying 29,000, we will deduct 1,120. Got it? So it says, this section says, threshold limit, if it is a single payment, 30,000 rupees. If it's a single contract, 30,000 rupees. And if it is a multiple payments, then 1 lakh rupees, right? TDS deductor. Who is the TDS deductor? The one who has given the contract, right? Contractee, I can say. So this person is the person who will be deducting the TDS. So this person can be a company, person can be an AOP, BOI, partnership firm. Can this person be individual or HUF? Same concept will apply. If this person who is giving the contract, if this person is individual or HUF, So it depends upon the turnover of the last year. It depends upon the turnover of the last year. If you understand, if the turnover of the business is more than 1 crore, then they are also liable to deduct TDS. If they are into profession, then we have to see 50 lakh rupees threshold limit, right? So here it is mentioned TDS deductor. Who is the TDS deductor? Any person being a contractee. Individual or HUF can also be the contractee. Who is the contractee? The one who gives the contract to that contractor, right? So this person is the contractor. We are the contractee, right? So TDS deductee could be any resident contractor or subcontractor. This section will apply even in case of contract and even also on the case of subcontractor also. Subcontract, what does subcontract mean? Let's say ABC Limited has given a contract to X. TDS will be deducted at a rate of 1%. Let's say it is more than rupees 30,000 or 1 lakh as the case may be. TDS will be deducted at the rate of 1%. Why 1%? Because this contractor is an individual or HUF. Here it is individual. Let's say Mr. X is quite busy. Let's say Mr. X is quite busy. He has although taken this contract, but he thinks that I'll not be able to perform this contract. Why? Because I am a bit busy with other contracts. So in that case, although X has taken this contract, but he gives this to other person. That is, he is subcontracting this contract, right? So he is subcontracting this. Mr. X has given to, let's say it was a contract of advertisement or any kind of contract. Mr. X has given this contract to someone else. This is known as subcontract. This is known as subcontract. And in case, let's say Mr. X has given this contract to PQR and Associates, it's a partnership firm. Let's say it's a partnership firm. They have given this contract. Mr. X has given this contract to partnership firm, and TDS will be deducted here also because 194C says that whenever we give a contract, or also in the case of subcontract. So here also TDS will be deducted. Tell me how much would be the rate of TDS? Because now the contractor is who? This person who is now receiving this contract is a partnership firm. So 2% rate will apply. So Mr. X, whenever this Mr. X will be making the payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier, they will be deducting TDS at a rate of 2%. Provided Mr. X last year, because now this person is an individual. Now the deductor is individual, right? So it depends upon the turnover, last year turnover. If it is more than 1 crore or 50 lakh as the case may be, then TDS will apply, right? So it is also in the case of contract also and subcontract also. Rate of TDS 1%, 2%, you now know this. Time of deduction at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. Threshold limit, you understand. Such contract is for carrying out any work. If we are supposed to, we have given a kind of contract. This could be advertisement contract. This could be any contract like broadcasting. It could be even the contract for construction also. Generally in our mind, whenever we say we have this word contract, it comes in our mind that it should be a construction contract. No, it could be any kind of contract, including construction contract also, right? But in 194C, we don't deduct TDS on personal contract. Please remember this. In 194C, it is written also in this book. But in 194C, please remember that it will not be, it should not be of a personal nature. It should be of your business or professional nature. Then we are going to deduct the TDS. If it is of personal nature, then 194C will not come into picture. We have some other section, but 194C will come only in picture if it is related to your business or profession, right? So this contract is for carrying out any work such as advertisement, broadcasting, telecasting, carriage of goods or passengers also. If we have given a contract to someone, that we want a goods carriage service, right? We would like to transport our goods from one place to another. So if we are giving a contract to a transporter also, then also 194C will apply. But here, please note down, it's very important point over here. Here we have given a relaxation in case of goods transportation. In case of goods not in case of passenger transportation, but in case of goods transportation, we have given a relaxation over here. If that transporter is not a very big contract, is not a very big transporter, if he has maximum 10 goods vehicle during the previous year, at any time during the previous year, he has maximum 10 goods vehicle, then TDS will not be deducted provided that transporter furnishes us his PAN number. If he furnish the PAN number and he gives a declaration that I do not have more than 10 goods vehicle at any time during the previous year, then we will give a relaxation over here. TDS will not be deducted. I'm again repeating. Let's say ABC Limited has given a contract of goods transportation. I'm not saying passenger transportation. I'm saying goods transportation. So if we have given a contract of goods transportation to someone, and if this person furnishes, he gives two details. One is PAN number. He furnished his PAN number, and as well as he gives us a declaration that anytime during the previous year he is a small transporter, he does not have more than 10 goods vehicle, then in that case we are not going to deduct the TDS. But if he does not gives us a declaration, we are going to deduct the TDS. And also please remember, this comes in examination also. If this person does not furnish his PAN number, if this person does not furnish this PAN number, then we will apply the rate of 20% that I'll be discussing later, the later part of this lecture today. Whenever this person who is the receiver, if that person does not furnish the PAN number, then the maximum rate of TDS goes to 20% also. So in this case, let's say if there is a question in your examination, it says that ABC Limited has given a contract to a goods transporter, and this, although this goods transporter is having not more than 10 goods vehicle, but he does not furnish his PAN number. If he does not furnish his PAN number, then TDS will be deducted. And because he is now not furnishing his PAN number, TDS will be deducted at a higher rate, which can go up to 20%, right? That I'll be discussing later also. So here it is mentioned. Keynote regarding 194C. TDS under section 194C will not apply for contract of goods carriage if the contractor does not own more than 10 goods vehicle at any time during the previous year, and he gives a declaration to such thing that I don't own more than 10 goods vehicle. Second thing is that he furnishes such declaration along with PAN number, But if he does not furnish his PAN number, then in that case, we are going to deduct TDS at a rate of 20%, right? One more thing I would like to mention here regarding 194C. See guys, section 194C is related to contract. If you give a contract to someone, what does contract means? You would like to get some work done. You would like to get some work done. That is called contract. It could be contract of advertisement, or it could be a contract of advertisement, marketing, broadcasting, telecasting. It could be an advertisement for construction contract also. It could be any job work related contract, It could be contract of any supply of labor also. What do you mean by supply of labor? Let's say ABC Limited is a company and they require some laborers. So they give a contract to someone that you will supply labor to us. And we will pay you the money. So this is also a contract, right? So this is also a contract. I have mentioned over here that if you gives a contract for any kind of job work also, then also 194C will apply. Let's say we are a company ABC Limited, and let's say new year is starting. Let's say for example a new year is, or there is any festival or occasion, and this ABC Limited would like to distribute some diaries or calendars. They would like to distribute as a kind of business promotion, or to their employees they would like to distribute. And on this diary they also want a logo to be printed. They also want their company's logo to be printed. So let's say ABC Limited approaches Mr. Z, and they gives him, Mr. Z is having his printer machine also. So ABC Limited approaches Mr. Z and they say that we will provide you blank diaries which does not have logos. We will provide you. ABC Limited is providing the material. They will provide you the diaries. We will be going to provide you the diaries, and XYZ Limited has to just print logo on these diaries or calendars, right? So here, what is Mr. Z doing? Mr. Z is doing a job work. This material is supplied by whom? This material is supplied by ABC Limited. So in this case, we are getting a job work done on our diaries or our calendars or anything which we would like to promote. We are getting our logo printed. So this is a job work. 194C will apply in this case. 194C will apply in this case. But if I tell you that ABC Limited approaches Mr. Z and they ask Mr. Z, they say to Mr. Z that we want diaries of this specifications of this much pages, this much dimensions, a diary. It should be this much long, this much width or anything. And they give us specification that we want diaries and we also want our logo printed. And from where these diaries will come, Mr. Z will arrange these diaries. So ABC Limited has given the specification and they will be purchasing the diaries with logo printed on these diaries or calendars, right? So now this raw material on which this logo will be printed will also be supplied by Z. So Z will arrange diaries, Z will purchase diaries from somewhere else, and then he will print logo, and then he will supply these diaries to ABC Limited. So what's the difference between the first scenario and the second scenario? In the first scenario, we were getting just the work done. These diaries are supplied by ABC Limited. So this is work done. 194C will apply. But in the second case, ABC Limited, although they have given the specifications, but they have not supplied the raw material. Raw material will also be arranged by this Mr. Z contractor, and they will also be printing logos also. So this transaction is of sale or purchase, right? This transaction is of sale or purchase, and on sale or purchase, we will not deduct TDS under section 194C. So in this case, TDS provisions will not apply. But yes, in this case, where we will supply the raw material and this person is just doing a work on that particular raw material which is supplied by us, then in that case 194C will apply. So the thumb rule is that who is supplying the raw material? If this raw material is supplying by this only, so for Mr. Z, he is the customer, right? For Mr. Z, if I look from Z's point of view, so if this person is a customer, because they are coming to this particular person and they will be paying the money also. So if this raw material is supplied by customer, then TDS will apply. But if this raw material is not supplied by customers, ABC Limited has not supplied the raw material, we have arranged it ourselves. And we will be charging for the entire diary that this result in sale and purchase transaction, and TDS will not be deducted. Also remember, although this will not come in examination, but also remember, if this raw material is supplied by customer or any of the associate also of any of the associate of ABC Limited. Let's say ABC Limited has a subsidiary and this subsidiary is supplying the raw material. Then also TDS will be deducted. So this raw material, if it has been given by the customer or any of their associates, then it will be assumed that this company is only giving this raw material to us, and we are just doing the job work. In that case, 194C will apply. But if Mr. Z will arrange these diaries, these papers, everything on its own, they make the arrangement of its own, and then they are printing the logo, then it will be a transaction of sale and purchase, right? See. Job work is performed as per the requirement specification of customer. So raw material is supplied by customer or their associates. If the raw material is supplied by the customer or their associates, TDS will apply. But raw material is supplied by other person. Other person means that Z is arranging this raw material on its own. They are getting this raw material from somewhere else. Then in that case, TDS will not apply. It will be a simple transaction of sale and purchase. Got it? Next important thing is that if contract is of personal nature, then 194C will not apply. And on professional services, there is a section which is coming up in next 15-20 minutes. I'll discuss section 194J. It's a very important section. In 194J also, we will see that if it's a professional services, then TDS will not be deducted under section 194C. It will be deducted under section 194J. Let's say if I give you an example, ABC Limited would like to get their audit done. They would like to get their tax audit done, and they approaches any chartered accountant that we would like to get our audit done. And this chartered accountant says, okay, we will charge you this much of audit fees. So tell me, have they given any contract to auditor? The answer is yes. To getting the books of accounts audited is also a kind of contract, but it is a kind of a professional contract. So here, Mr. Auditor is a professional. Now he is giving his professional services. In that case, 194C will not apply. We have another section, 194J will apply in this that case, right? So there is a very thin line of difference. So we have to see if it is a kind of professional in nature. The person who is supplying this particular services, if this person is a kind of professional, in that case 194J will apply. So professional services contract are not covered under section 194C, they are covered under section 194J. And section 197, what is section 197? Where we can approach the AO and we can seek his permission that we don't want to get our TDS deducted, or TDS to be deducted at a lower rate. So that relaxation is available under section 194C, 197. But 197A declaration is not available. What is 197A declaration? Where we used to give a declaration in form 15G, and if the person is a senior citizen, resident senior citizen, they can give a declaration 15H. That section is not available over here. Only section 197 benefit can be taken, right? Not very important from examination point of view. But yes, 194C altogether is important, that whenever you give contract to someone, then TDS will be deducted at a rate of 1% or 2%, as the case may be. If the contractor is an individual ratio of 1%, otherwise 2%. And you should remember this threshold limit also, 30,000 and 1 lakh threshold limit. Okay. Next section is 194D. In fact, we have three sections which are very much similar: 194D, 194G, and 194H. These three sections are very much similar. See, 194D is related to if you receive any insurance commission. Insurance commission. 194G is related to lottery commission. And 194H is other commission and brokerage. It is 194H. All these three sections are quite similar. So let me discuss about 194D first. Insurance commission. Who gets insurance commission? Insurance agents. So let's say this is an insurance company. Let's say there is an insurance company and they give insurance commission to insurance agent, right? Insurance agent are not employees, they are freelancers, right? They are freelancers, they work of their own, and they solicits customers for insurance company, and for that insurance companies pays them insurance commission. So whenever this insurance company will be paying insurance commission to insurance agents, then TDS under section 194D will be deducted. Then TDS under section 194D will be deducted at a rate of 5%. Please remember the rate of TDS is 5% and the threshold limit is 15,000. So if we are giving insurance commission during the year not more than 15,000, TDS will not be deducted. But if the amount is more than 15,000, then TDS will be deducted. 194G, similar concepts. Let's say there is a concept of lottery, although it is not legal in most of the states, but in some states still we have lottery systems. So let's say there is an organizer of lottery. There's an organizer of lottery and they appoints lottery agents who works on their behalf. Lottery agents, they help this lottery organizers, these lottery companies, to sell these the lottery tickets, and for that they receive commission. So if we are giving this organizers of lottery, it could be state government also, because in some states we have state governments who runs these lotteries. So these organizers, whenever they will be paying lottery commission to their lottery agent, then 194G will come into picture. And the rate of TDS is 5%. Threshold limit is 15,000. Same here, the rate of TDS is 5%. Threshold limit is 15,000. Same over here also. And 194H related to other commission. Let's say there is a company, let's say there is a company XYZ Limited, they are giving commission to their agent. Let's say there is a selling agent or buying agent. There is, it could be any type of agent, and they are giving commission, right? Is it insurance commission? No. If this would have been insurance commission, this will cover under section 194D. Is it lottery commission? The answer is no. If it would have been lottery commission, it will be covered under section 194G. This is other commission or brokerage. Brokerage also is covered over here. So if we are giving commission to any of the agent, and if the threshold limit is more than 15,000 rupees, then 5% TDS rate will apply. See, so much of similarity over here. Here again, the TDS rate is 5%, 5%, 5%. Threshold limit is 15, 15, 15 in this case. So this 194D is related to insurance commission, 194G lottery commission, 194H other commission and brokerage. But 194D, please remember one more thing. If this insurance agent is a company, then in that case, the TDS rate will not be 5%, it will be 10%. If this insurance agent is a company, it is only in the case of 194D. Otherwise, 194G and 194H has only one rate, 5%, right? But in 194D, we have 5%. But if in case this insurance agent is a company, I can give you an example. Let's say there is a company called Policy Bazaar. If you have heard this name, Policy Bazaar. So it's an online portal also, and what this Policy Bazaar, if you would like to get your vehicles insurance or your insurance, LIC or anything, you can visit their website, Policy Bazaar. There are other websites also. I've given you one example, Policy Bazaar, and they will get the insurance done for you. But they actually get the insurance done for you or for your vehicles or any kind of insurance from insurance company. So they will get the commission. Policy Bazaar will get the commission. Who will pay the commission? Insurance company. But this Policy Bazaar is a company, right? Policy Bazaar is a company. In that case, TDS at a rate of 10% will be deducted in that case, right? So this is 194D, 194G, and 194H. Similar provisions. 15,000 is the limit. 5% is the TDS rate, but only in case of 194D, if this insurance agent is other than company, 5%, but if it is company, then 10% TDS rate, right? So 194D is TDS on insurance commission. TDS deductor would be in 194D insurance company, right? Any kind of insurance company, it could be LIC, ICICI Prudential, any kind of insurance company, and they are paying to a resident who is an insurance agent. Rate of TDS is generally 5%, but if that agent is a domestic company, let's say for example Policy Bazaar, so you can write it over here, example Policy Bazaar. So if it is Policy Bazaar, or I can say a domestic company, then 10% TDS rate will be deducted. Time of deduction, the time of payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Threshold limit is 15,000, and 197, 197A both are applicable. This is not that important, right? But yes, 5% and 10% rate is important. Please remember this. And threshold limit 15,000, it is important. 194D. 194DA will do in 2 minutes. First, let me read 194G and H first. 194G is TDS on lottery commission. So here, person responsible for paying lottery commission will deduct TDS. Generally, they are the organizer of lottery or state government, etc. They will deduct TDS for lottery agent, 5% TDS, 15,000 is the threshold limit. 194H, important section, it can come in your examination. 194H, any person who is paying commission. If the individual HUF is paying commission, then of course, if their last year turnover is more than 1 crore business or profession 50 lakh, then they are also liable to deduct TDS of any resident to whom they are paying any insurance or brokerage. TDS rate is 5%, threshold limit is 15,000 rupees. Got it? Okay. So this was 194. This was related to commission and brokerage. So we have three sections: 194D, 194G, and 194H. Right? There is one more section, 194DA. 194DA. If you receive amount from life insurance policy, so if your life insurance policy is matured and you receive any amount, then in that case also TDS will be deducted. In that case also TDS will be deducted at a rate of 5%. But it depends whether that on maturity, if you are receiving this insurance amount, whether it is taxable or it is exempt. If it is taxable, then only TDS will apply. If it is exempt, then TDS will not apply. And you know that I have discussed this at many places, even in IFOS also, and in deduction chapter also I have discussed that. See, there is a section 1010D. You don't have to remember this section, but there is a section of exempt income. It says that if you receive amount on your LIC, if you receive amount on your LIC maturity, then it can be exempt. It generally it is exempt, but it depends upon the premium. See, if it is exempt, whenever if you when it will be exempt, I'll be discussing it. Although I have already discussed in IFS also and the chapter of deduction also when I was discussing section 80C with you, but I'll discuss it once again over here. But first, understand that if you are getting any amount, if you are getting any amount which is exempt, then TDS cannot be deducted. Why? Because government don't want TDS to be deducted on exempt income. So if you are getting, let's say if you are getting agriculture income, and the person who is paying agriculture income, whether that person will be deducting your TDS, the answer is no. Why? Because the agriculture income is itself exempt. So it is a simple logic. If I'm getting any exempt income, then no one will going to deduct TDS on that exempt income. Why they should deduct? Because that income is exempt. So if you are getting any LIC amount on maturity, so if that amount is exempt, then TDS will not be deducted. Then if it is exempt, then obviously 194DA will not apply. It will not apply. Why? Because the amount which you are receiving at the first place, it is exempt. Then TDS will not be deducted. Simple, right? 194D can only come into picture if this LIC amount is taxable. If this maturity amount, if it is taxable, then only 194DA will come into picture. So we can only deduct TDS. This is a simple thumb rule. This is a simple logic. So if anything which is taxable in my hands, then the person who is paying this amount, that person can deduct TDS. Why? Because it is taxable for me. But if it is exempt from me, that person will not going to deduct TDS. So who is paying LIC amount at maturity? So the company will be paying. So the insurance company, let's say insurance company is paying, there were two persons, let's say Mr. A and Mr. B. They were having their LIC. They were having their LIC. And now this insurance company is paying LIC amount on maturity to Mr. A and also to Mr. B. Whether TDS will be deducted, whether this insurance company will be deducting TDS under section 194DA, it depends. Let's say for Mr. A, when he is receiving this amount, for Mr. A, it was exempt. It is exempt for Mr. A. This amount which is received on maturity, it is exempt. Then 194DA will not come into picture. We will not going to deduct TDS. But let's say if it is in the hands of Mr. B, this amount is taxable. If this amount is taxable, then of course 194DA will also come into picture. Then TDS will be deducted. Got it? Now I have to tell you when this amount will be exempt and when this amount will be taxable. So it depends upon the premium. It depends upon the premium. If the premium is more than, same thing, it is more than 20%, 10% or 15% as the case may be, then it is taxable. But if it is not more than 10, 20%, 10%, 15%, then it is not taxable. So you know that date also, 1st April 2012. Just remember this date, 1st April 2012. So if the policy date, it depends when the policy was started, whenever you have started this policy. So if the policy date, just remember this date and you can build a story by this date. So if this policy is before this date, if it is before, this policy was started before 31st, go one day before this, 31st March 2012, this is one day prior to this. So if this policy date was started anywhere before, on or before this date, I can also write this date before, let me write this date, 2012. Then if the premium is up to 20% of sum assured, do you remember this thing? If the premium is up to 20% of the sum assured, then it will be exempt. But if it is more than 20% of the sum assured, then it would be taxable. Then it will be taxable. Right? This we have already discussed. And for next 1 year, from if the policy date was between 1st April 2012 till 31st March 2013, that is 1 year. So if the premium amount is 10%, up to 10% of the sum assured, it is not more than 10% of the sum assured, then it will be exempt, no TDS. But if it is more than 10%, it would be taxable and TDS will be there. And on or after 1st April 2013, right? This is 1 year, and after that, on or after 1st April 2013, if the premium amount is not more than 10% of the sum assured, or if the person for whom we have taken the insurance, that person is disabled, in that case, 15% of the sum assured. If that premium is not more than 10% or 15%, as the case may be, then exempt. But if it is more than 10% or 15%, then it will be taxable, then TDS will apply, right? So this is section 194 DA. So 194 DA says that insurance company will deduct TDS. Of course, when it is taxable, only then they will be deducting TDS. So they will be deducting TDS if on maturity the threshold limit is 1 lakh. If you are receiving more than 1 lakh rupees, then TDS will be deducted. So we understand when it will be taxable, only then 194 DA will apply. But second important thing is that if even if it is more than 10%, 15% or 20%, but if the amount which you are receiving, if it is not more than this threshold limit, please remember this thing. If this is not more than 1 lakh rupees, then TDS will not be deducted. TDS will be deducted. So there are two conditions. First of all, that LIC maturity amount should be taxable. Second thing, on maturity, you are receiving more than 1 lakh rupees, then only TDS will apply, right? TDS will apply. And TDS will apply on which amount? The amount which you have received? No, it will apply on your income portion. It will apply on your income portion. So income portion is, income would be, I'm denoting it by I. Income portion would be the sum which you have received, on maturity minus the premium which you have paid during this tenure. During this tenure, whatever the premium you have paid, that will be deducted. So only on the income portion TDS will be deducted, not on the entire amount. Because let's say if you have received 5 lakh rupees, but during the tenure, if you have paid 3 lakh rupees premium, so 5 minus 3, that is 2 lakh. So TDS will apply on 2 lakh rupees, right? So here it is mentioned that rate of TDS would be 5% TDS rate on income component. On income component, TDS will be deducted. Are you all getting this? Not on the entire amount. Please remember, this is something which is important for examination. TDS deductor would be insurance company. TDS deductee is any resident who is receiving interest on or who is receiving amount on LIC maturity. Rate of TDS is 5% only on income component. What is income component? Amount which you are receiving on maturity minus with the premium you have paid during this entire tenure. Whatever the premium you have paid during this policy, you can deduct that. So it is only on the income component. Time of deduction, at the time when they will be paying you this amount, they will be deducting 5% TDS. But the threshold limit is 1 lakh. 1 lakh is the income amount? No. The amount which you are receiving, if it is more than 1 lakh, then only TDS will be applied. But if it is not more than 1 lakh, TDS will not be applied. Lower rate of deduction, 197A declaration is available over here. Right. And here also I have mentioned that if the TDS under this section will not be applied if it is covered under section 1010D, if it is exempt. So you understand, if the premium amount is up to 20% before 1st April 2012, that I have already discussed with you. Got it? So this was 194D. So now, till now we have done 194C, TDS on contract. We did 194D, insurance commission, 194G, lottery commission, 194H, other commission and brokerage. And we also did 194DA, that is amount received from insurance policy at the time of maturity. Okay. Now coming to another important section, 194I. This is page number 11.11. 194I, TDS on rent. So if you are paying rent to someone, then TDS will be deducted. TDS will be deducted at a rate of 10%. If you are paying rent, then TDS will be deducted at a rate of 10%. But if you are paying rent of machines, TDS rate would be 2% in that case. So if it could be rent of building, it could be rent of machine, it could be rent of furniture also. So only in case of machinery, if you are paying rent of machinery, then 2% TDS. and for others 10% TDS. That is for building 10%, land 10%, furniture also 10%. Only for machines, only for plant and machinery, TDS rate will be 2%, and the threshold limit is 2,40,000. So if you are paying rent to someone, and if it is more than 2,40,000, then TDS will be deducted on the entire amount. So let's say there is a person. So let's say it's a company XYZ Limited. They have taken an office on rent. They have taken an office on rent, and they are paying rent to Mr. A of rupees 40,000 per month. Of rupees 40,000 per month. Tell me how much is the total rent for the year? So it is 40,000 into 12, which is 4,80,000. See, our threshold limit is how much? Our threshold limit, if the total amount is more than 2,40,000, then TDS will apply. So what will XYZ Limited do? Every month they are paying rent. How much? 40,000 rupees, and they understand the total will go more than 2,40,000. So every month when they will be paying rent, let's say this rent is of building, they will be deducting TDS at a rate of 10%. So how much TDS every month they will be deducting? 4,000 rupees, and they will be releasing 36,000. This is the net amount which Mr. A will be receiving, but the gross amount is 40,000, right? So he will be receiving 36,000. Why? 4,000 TDS will be deducted every month. Why? Because the total amount will go more than 2,40,000. So we understand that we are giving rent of 40,000 per month, which will go to 4,80,000, more than 2.4, 10% TDS will be applied in that case. So if it's a company, they are giving rent. If it's a partnership firm, they are giving rent. AOPBY, they are giving rent. TDS will apply. If there's an individual or HUF, and if they are paying rent, you understand, if it is individual or HUF, then it depends upon their turnover. For company, we don't have to see the turnover. For partnership firm, we don't have to see the turnover. TDS will be deducted. Only for individual and HUF, we have to see the turnover. And turnover of this previous year or turnover of last previous year? Last previous year. We have to see the turnover of last previous year, right? So this is 194I. TDS deductor could be any person, company, partnership firm, AOP, BOI, etc. It could be individual or HUF also. Yes, if their turnover of last year, if they're carrying business more than 1 crore, or profession more than 50 lakh. TDS deductible would be any resident. TDS rate of TDS 2% in case of plant and machinery, and 10% in case of land and building, or in case of plant and machinery 2%. For others, it is 10%. So for land and building 10%, for furniture 10%. Please don't confuse with this. Furniture is 10%, right? Only for plant and machinery it is 2%. Time of deduction at the time of payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Threshold limit is 2,40,000 rupees. Let's say there is a question in your examination. Let's say this is ABC and Associates. It's a partnership firm, and they are giving rent of building rupees 2 lakh to Mr. X. So Mr. X is receiving rent of building 2 lakh. No TDS. It's not per month, that for the entire year. So if it is just 2 lakh rupees, no TDS will apply. But if this would have been more than 2,40,000, TDS would have been applied. Let's say they are giving rent of building to Mr. X rupees 2 lakh, and also they are giving rent of machine rupees 50,000 to Mr. X. Who is the receiver? Mr. X is the receiver. So they are paying 2,50,000 rupees rent. Now 194I will apply in this case. Sorry, 194I is going to apply in this case. Why? Because the total rent which we are paying to Mr. X, it is going more than 2.4 lakh, right? It is now 2 lakh plus 50,000, 2,50,000. So in this case, how much TDS will be deducted over here? TDS will apply. And how much TDS? On rent of building, we understand 10% TDS rate. So it would be 20,000. And on rent of machine, it is 50,000 into 2%. 1,000 rupees TDS will be deducted in that case. Got it? So TDS will apply because Mr. X is now receiving, which is the rent, which is more than 2.4 lakh. Got it? So this was important, 194I. So whether individual or HUF can deduct TDS, the answer is yes, if their turnover of last year exceeds 1 crore 50 lakh, as the case may be. Although, also please remember guys, if we are paying rent, let's say, if we are paying rent to central government, so central government income is exempt. So if we are paying rent to central government, TDS will not apply in that case, right? Please remember that whenever we pay the amount to central government, TDS will not apply, right? Not to bank, not to any government company. If you are paying to government company, TDS will apply. I'm saying only and only to central government. If you are paying the amount, then TDS will not apply, right? Okay. Okay, there are some special sections 194 IA, IB, and 194 M. Let me discuss these sections also. 194 IA. Section 194 IA. It's a very special section and it's very easy also, important as well. 194 IA says whenever you purchase a property, you purchase a land, or you purchase a building, or you purchase both. Whenever you purchase any property, you are a buyer. So whether you are purchasing it for your business purpose, profession purpose, or even for your personal purpose, then also you have to deduct TDS at a rate of 1% if the value of the property is more than rupees 50 lakh, 50. If the value of the property is more than 50 lakh, then this section will come into picture. This section says that this section imposes the responsibility, this section imposes the obligation on the buyer. So let's say there is any buyer, of a property. Let me give him a name, Mr. Ankush. Ankush is purchasing a property. Let's say he's a salaried assessee, right? Ankush is a salaried assessee and he's purchasing a house for himself. So whenever you will be paying to the seller, So whenever you will be paying to the seller, first of all, tell me what is the value of this property. If it is more than rupees 50 lakh, if it is more than 50 lakh, then you have to deduct TDS at a rate of 1%. So how we have to see the value of the property? We have to see how much amount you are paying, how much consideration you are paying. If this consideration is more than 50 lakh, or even the stamp duty value is more than 50 lakh, any of the following. If whether the consideration is more than 50 lakh, the amount which you are paying, in case you are paying the amount which is less than 50 lakh, but the stamp duty value is more than 50 lakh, then also, because we understand the value of the property is more than 50 lakh rupees. So in case if the value of the property is more than 50 lakh rupees, then whatever the consideration which you are paying, you have to deduct 1% TDS. You have to deduct 1% TDS on that amount, right? And here we will not give you so many compliances. You don't have to adhere so many compliances also. We are giving you a very simple process because we understand that you are just a simple buyer. Let's say you are a salaried assessee. So we cannot give you so many steps that you have to follow this, you have to follow this, you have to follow these compliances. No, we are making it very simple. You just deduct 1% TDS. Let's say you are paying him 60 lakh rupees, which is more than 50 lakh, right? So let's say if you are paying him 60 lakh rupees, so you have to deduct 1% TDS. How much it would be? 60,000. Just deduct 60,000 rupees and pay the remaining amount. That is, remaining amount is 59.4 lakh. Pay to the seller and deduct his 60,000 rupees. Why? Because income tax would like to track these high value transaction. If this transaction is happening, which is of high value more than 50 lakh rupees, income tax would like to track these transactions, correct? So what they will say to Ankush, they will say, Ankush, you will fall under section 194A. Which section we are doing? Section 194IA. Sorry, I just mentioned 194A. No, it is 194IA. So you have to deduct TDS under section 194IA if the value of the property is more than 50 lakh rupees. 1% TDS you should deduct. So simply you have to say, ask the seller, boss, I will be deducting 1% TDS and you just pay 59.4 lakh to this person if the value is, right now the transaction is of 60 lakh, right? So 60,000 rupees Ankush has deducted. What Ankush should do now? He should deposit the amount. Tell me, what was the responsibility of the TDS deductor? Here the TDS deductor is Ankush. So his first responsibility should be deduct the TDS. Okay, he has deducted the TDS. Second responsibility is that he should deposit the TDS. First responsibility, deduct TDS. Okay, he has deducted. Second responsibility is deposit the TDS. Then you have to furnish the TDS return also. then you have to issue the TDS certificate also to that particular person, TDS certificate also. But we will not give you so many compliances. We are merging these two. We are merging these two. Whenever you will deposit this amount, as in when you will be depositing this amount, we will assume that you have filled your TDS return also. We will assume as if you have filled your TDS return also. You don't have to undergo so many steps, right? Because why? Because he is just a simple person. He is a salaried assessee. We don't want to burden him by these compliances, right? So what he will do now? He will log in to income tax portal. That is the simple steps. He will log into this income tax portal that you will be seeing at the time of at the time when you will be doing article chip. You will be doing all these things. So simply he will be logging to the income tax site and he will be depositing the TDS. There is a very small. It's a very simple procedure. He has to fill a very small form where this person has to mention what is the PAN number of my buyer, PAN number of Ankush, buyer's PAN number you have to mention, seller PAN number you have to mention, the amount which you are paying, the consideration amount which you have to mention, and you have to simply pay the amount. You have to simply pay the amount, the same like online payment, right? And because it's a very special section, because generally, if you remember in the last lecture, I have told you that whenever you deduct TDS deductor should have his TAN number. They should have his TAN number. But there are certain exceptions also to that section, right? In this case, you don't require the TAN number also. You don't require the TAN number because we would like to make this process, the system very streamlined. We would like to simplify this system. So even because we understand that this person is not even having his PGBP income, he's just having a salary income. So from where he will get his TAN number? No, we would like to make this process simple. So in this case, there are three sections where TAN number is not required. One is this one, 194 IA. Then we after some time we will do 194 IB and then we will do 194 M. So in these three sections, even normal person can deduct TDS if the conditions get satisfied. So here the condition is more than 50 lakh rupees. So here you don't even require your TAN number, and we are making a simplified compliances for you. So you just have to deposit the TDS by filling up a small form. That form will be known as challan. Whenever you deposit the tax amount, that is called challan, and we will assume that you have filed the return also. There is no requirement to file a separate TDS return. So this form itself will do that purpose also. So the dual purpose of challan and return both are done by this particular process only. So we call it challan cum return. We call it challan cum return. Later at this stage, also at the end of this lecture, I'll be telling you that there are different types of TDS returns. Generally it is in right now. Just listen to this is 24Q for salary. For other than salary, this is 26Q. There is a form 26Q, that is TDS return. So in this case it is a very simple process. So this challan cum return is known as form 26QB. This is known as 26QB. In 194 IB it is 24QC, sorry, 26QC. In 194M it will be 26QD. I'll be telling that. If you will see also, if you come to page number at the last, you can come. Okay, this is page number 11.20. Here it is mentioned also TDS returns. So if it is salary TDS return, it is 24Q. It is 24Q. I'll be telling you there. Other sections, it is 26Q. It is 26Q. But for 194 IA, right now we are doing 194 IA. Here there is a special TDS return. Even it is, you don't have to file TDS return separately. It is challan cum TDS return, and it's a very small form which you have to fill it up. So but this return name is form number 26QB. So for IA, right now we are doing IA, it is 26QB. For IB it is 26QC. For 194M, which I'll be discussing, it would be QD. So QB, QC, QD, it's a very simple TDS return. In fact, we don't have to file this TDS return separately. It is challan cum return, right? And afterwards, you have to issue the TDS certificate also. Here you will be issuing the TDS certificate to the seller because you have deducted his TDS, right? So you'll be issuing TDS certificate also. And we have a special forms for TDS certificate. For salary, we have form 16. For other than salary, we have 16A. But for these special sections, we have 16B, 16C, 16B. So for 194IA, we have 16B, 194IB, 16C, 194M, we have 16D. You can remember it with this, right? TDS form is 26QB, and for 194IA, right now the section which we are just doing, 194IA, TDS written is 194QB, and form is form 16B. Which form? TDS certificate 16B. See, here is B, here also it is B. Form 26QC, 194IB, which I'll be discussing after 2 or 3 minutes. 194IB, you have to file a TDS return. 194Qs, no, sorry, in 194IB, you have to file the return. Form 26QC, and there the form is 16C. Which is this form? This is TDS certificate. In 194M, you have to furnish a TDS return in form 26QD. It's a very simple return. It is in fact challan cum return 26QD, and the TDS return is TDS certificate is 16D, right? Although it will not come in examination, but at the back of the mind, you should understand that these are TDS returns and TDS certificates. Okay, come back. Sorry. Okay, so here it is mentioned that TDS deductor. TDS deductor is the purchaser of immovable property. So if this person is purchasing immovable property other than agriculture land, because you understand, rural agriculture land, there would be no capital gain. Why? Because rural agriculture land is not a capital asset. And even for urban agriculture land, if you are purchasing it, we are giving you a relaxation over here. So it should be, if it is other than agriculture land, then only this provision will apply. So if you are purchasing a immovable property, now this is one of the important thing here. If the immovable property, if you are purchasing a immovable property, but actually it is not a purchase, it is a compulsory acquisition. So generally government, let's say there is a property of Mr. Q. Mr. Q is the owner of this property, and government, central government, state government, local authority, etc., they are acquiring this property. We can even say that they are purchasing the property, but they are compulsory acquiring this property. So the government is the buyer now, and let's say they are acquiring it and they are paying rupees, let's say 90 lakh rupees. So it is more than 50 lakh. So here also section 194 IB will come. 1% TDS will be deducted. Why? Because government is acquiring this property. I can say that government is purchasing this property. But here 194 IB will not apply. Why? Because we have a special section in case of compulsory acquisition. We have a special section 194 LA. It says in 194 IB we have TDS rate 1%. We have just seen. In LA we have TDS rate of 10%. In 194 IB we have threshold limit of 50 lakh. Here we have just threshold limit of 2.5 lakh. So if you are compulsory acquiring any property, other than of course agricultural land, then because we understand if it is a rural agricultural land, it would be exempt. So in that case, there is no need to apply TDS rate. If it is an urban agricultural land, also we understand that whenever you compulsory acquire a urban agricultural land, we have done this in the chapter of capital gain, that it is exempt, right? Do you remember that? Whenever you compulsory acquire agricultural land, then it becomes exempt. Whenever you voluntarily purchase it, then it is not exempt. But if you compulsory acquire it, then it becomes exempt. So 194 LA will say that if you are compulsory acquiring any property other than agricultural land, then 194 LA will apply. See, here also in 194 IB, you are also buying this property. LA is also a sort of buying, but LA is a kind of compulsory acquisition. So for compulsory acquisition, we have a special section. So if compulsory acquisition, if it's a case of compulsory acquisition, then 194 IB will not apply. 194 LA will apply, right? See, I have written it over here also. Some important terms in 194 IA. 194 IA does not apply in case of compulsory acquisition of immovable property because we have a specific section 194 LA. Okay, come back. So rate of TDS, it's whenever you are purchasing it, then 1% of the consideration price or the stamp value, whichever is higher. So you have to deduct TDS at rate of 1%. At what amount? Whatever you are paying or the stamp duty value, whichever is higher, you have to deduct 1% TDS. Time of deduction at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. Threshold limit, please remember 50 lakh rupees. 50 lakh rupees is the threshold limit. On what amount this threshold limit will be considered? The amount which you are paying, whether it is more than 50 lakh, then also 194IA will apply. But if the amount which you are paying is not more than 50 lakh, but the stamp duty value is more than 50 lakh, then also this section can apply, right? And you have to deduct 1% TDS on what amount? The amount which you are paying or the stamp duty value, whichever is higher. Let's say the amount which you are paying is 60 lakh rupees, but the stamp duty value is 70 lakh rupees. So how much 1% would be on whichever is the higher amount, 70 lakh rupees, you have to deduct 1% TDS. Correct? Okay. Lower rate of deduction is not available over here. Consideration value will include all charges like club fees, car parking, electricity, water facility. What is this actually? Because there we have seen that income tax department observed that some people are taking advantage of this section. What they are doing is, let's say especially these builders, let's say there is a builder and he is selling this property for rupees 55 lakh, more than 50 lakh, then 194 IA will apply. Whosoever is the purchaser, they will be deducting 1% TDS, right? Because that person is purchasing a property of more than 55 lakh, more than 50 lakh, 55 it is. But what does this builder does to avoid this TDS implication? What does this builder does? He says that I will sell this property, but I will sell this property for rupees 45 lakh, and I'll receive 10 lakh separately for my parking services, for my lift services, for my water, electricity, other thing. He's saying what he did is he splitted this 55 lakh rupees into 2 or 3 portions. So here income tax department observed that people are doing, especially these builders are following this particular loophole. So what they did is they came out with this particular amendment. They said that consideration value will include all charges. Like if you are paying for other things also like club fees, parking fees, water, electricity, anything, we will club it together and we will see the consolidated amount. So here, even if you will say that I have sold my property for 45 lakh and I have taken 10 lakh rupees for other services, we are going to club it together. We are going to club it together. This is written over here that we will include all such charges also, right? This I have already discussed that in section 194. There are 3 sections where TAN is not required. 194 IA, which we have just discussed. And then I'll be discussing 194 IB, T10 is not required. And in 194 M, T10 is not required. Okay. This I have discussed. Simplified TDS return in form 26 QB. 190 in 194 IA we have QB 26 QB. In 194 IB we have 26 QC, and in 194 M we have 26 QD. What it is? This is TDS return, right? And TDS certificate in form 16B. Here 194 I 16B, 194 IB 16C, and 194 M it would be 16D. Okay. Let's come to next section, that is 194 IB. 194 IB is payment of rent. Sir, we have already done payment of rent 194 I. No. There is a difference between 194 I and 194 IB. Let's understand that. So we already did section 194 I. 194 I was TDS on rent. What was the rate of rent? So if you are paying rent for machinery, the rent is 2%. But if it is for other things like building, furniture, etc., the TDS rate would be 10%. This we have already covered. And the threshold limit was 2,40,000. Who can deduct TDS under section 194I? Any person can deduct TDS. But if this person is individual or HUF, and if their turnover of the last year is more than rupees 1 crore or 50 lakh, as the case may be, business or profession as the case may be, then they are also eligible to deduct TDS. Okay. Let us imagine that there is a person, he's Mr. Y, and this person is a salaried assessee. This person is a salaried assessee. And he is paying rent. He is paying rent. Let's say he is paying rent, whatever the amount is right now. Please tell me whether this person can come in section 194I. The answer is no. Why not? Sir, because only here 194I, if company is paying rent, they can come. If partnership firm is paying rent, they can come over here. But if individual or HUF are paying rent, their turnover of the last year will be seen. But here, Mr. Y turnover of last year, sir, he's not doing any business or any profession. So there would be no turnover in that case. So Mr. Y does not fall under section 194I. Mr. Y cannot fall under section 194I. Okay. I'm giving you second example. There is another person, Mr. Z. He is doing his business and profession. He is having his PGBP income, let's say. And this person is paying rent. But his turnover of the last year, because now he is running his business or profession, so there would be a turnover. But his turnover for the last year, let's say he's running his business, but his turnover for the last year is just 40 lakh. It was not more than 1 crore, right? Even if he's running his profession, then it is not more than 50 lakh. So this person cannot come. So these two person, although they are paying rent, but they are not, they cannot come under section 194I. So for these kind of people, we have section 194IB. For these kind of people, we have 194IB. So who are not eligible to deduct TDS under section 194I, they can deduct TDS under section 194IB. So a person who is not having PGBP income, that person can also deduct here. So here also TAN number is not required. So in 194IA, purchase of immovable property more than 50 lakh, TAN number is not required. 194IB, if you are paying rent also, then TDS is not required. Who can come under section 194IB? Those individual or HUF who cannot come in section 194I, who could not come in section 194I. Why? Because their turnover was not more than 1 lakh. Either they were not having any turnover like Mr. Y, salaried SSE, or if their turnover is not more than 1 crore or 50 lakh, as the case may be, those people can come under section 194IB. But if you are paying some significant rent, not any rent, right? If you are paying some significant portion, how much? If the rent which you are paying is more than 50,000 rupees per month. If the per month rent or the part of the month rent, let's say you have taken any property on rent for 20 days, not for the full month, but for part of the month, let's say for 20 days also. And if the rent is more than 50,000 rupees of that part of the month, so whether the per month rent is more than 50,000, only then this section will going to apply. So let's say there is Mr. Y, salaried SSE. He is having his, let's say he's having his office in Bangalore. He's working in Bangalore and he's paying his house rent. He's paying his house rent, which is just rupees 20,000 or 25,000. 25,000, let's say he's paying the rent. Whether he can come under section 194IB, the answer is no. Why not? Whether he can come under section 194I, the answer is simply no, sir. He's salaried SSE. How can he come? Because his individual or HUF, last year turnover we will see. He will not come under section 194I. Whether he can come under section 194IB, the answer is no. Why not? Because here, although we will not see the turnover of this person, but we will see the rent which he is paying. So let's say if he is paying 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, which is not more than 50,000 rupees, then he will not be going to deduct any TDS. So in that case, in which section he will deduct? He will not deduct. Why he should deduct? Because remember, last time in the last lecture, I have already discussed with you that we don't deduct TDS on every payment. No, there are only certain payments only. Then if conditions also satisfied, then we have to deduct TDS. Otherwise, we don't have to deduct TDS. So in that case, if Mr. Y is paying rent, and let's say he's a salaried SSE, he cannot come under 194I. And if the rent of the per month rent is more than 50,000 rupees, or even if it is for part of the month, if it is more than 50,000 rupees, then only 194IB will come into picture, right? So if you are paying rent, then TDS will apply. How much TDS rate it would be? 5%. You have to deduct TDS at a rate of 5%. Second important thing is that when you have to deduct this TDS, they say, this section says, we are doing which section? Section 194IB. Section 194IB says that you have to deduct the TDS at the end of the year. At the end of the year, at the end when you will be paying your rent. When you will be paying your rent, then at that time you should deduct TDS. So TDS here will not be deducted every month. It will be deducted at the end of the year. Right? So let's say this person is paying rent. Let's say this person is paying rent of rupees 60,000 per month. 60,000 per month this person is paying rent. And for the entire year, this person is paying rent. So in first month, let's say in April 2023, this is the first month of this year. So let's say in April 23, if this person is paying rent, you can pay 60,000 rupees, no problem. Don't deduct TDS right now. Please deduct TDS at the end of the year. So first month 60,000, do not deduct TDS. Second month 60,000, you can pay entirely 60,000, do not deduct TDS. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 10th month, 11th month, do not deduct TDS. At the end of the year, when you will be paying the amount, deduct 5% TDS. How much TDS do you have to deduct at the end of the year? So when you will be paying March 2024 rent, this is the last month, right? In this year, this is the last month. So here you have to deduct TDS. How much? First, tell me total rent which you have paid. So 60,000 into 12. This is the total rent which you have paid during the year. 7,20,000 into 5%. So deduct how much it would be. I think it would be 36,000. 60,000 into 12 into 5%, 36,000. So now deduct 36,000. So last month, every month you were paying 60,000, but in the month of March, when you will be paying 60,000, please deduct 36,000 TDS and only pay 24,000 to that landlord, right? In the last month of this year, you have to deduct TDS, right? So 194IB says that you have to deduct TDS at the end of the year, that is in the month of March. But in case you are vacating this property during the year before March, let's say before the end of the year, you are vacating this property. So whatever is your last month of tenancy, then you can deduct TDS. So let's say if this person is vacating this property in the month of, let's say November 23, then in November 23, deduct TDS. So it would be either on the last month of the vacancy or at the end of the year. Got it? Last point is that whenever you will be deducting TDS, it should not be more than last month's rent. It should not be more than the rent. Let's say, so here we were paying in the month of March, how much rent we were paying? 60,000 rupees. And how much TDS we should deduct? So for the entire year, the rent was 7,20,000, 60,000 into 12, 5%, 36,000. Is it more than 60,000? No, it is not more than. So you can deduct 36,000 and remaining you can pay. But let's say last month TDS comes to 65,000. Let's say last month TDS comes to 65,000. But last month rent was how much? Last month rent was 60,000. So it will be restricted to 60,000 only. So the TDS cannot go above the last month rent, whether it is the last month of the year or the last month of tenancy. It cannot go more than the rent amount, right? So in that case, you have to restrict the TDS to the amount which was the rental amount which you are paying, right? So when this circumstance can arise, when the TDS is more than the last month rent, it can arise only in that situation when this landlord, the person, the deductee, does not furnish PAN. If that person would not be furnishing PAN, then we will be deducting TDS at a rate of 20% in that case, right? So in that circumstances, this position can come. Say, let's say if that person who is the landlord, who's the owner, if he has not furnished his PAN number, then tell me how much TDS in that case. So in that case, we will deduct 20% TDS. So 20% TDS will come to 1,44,000, correct? But last month, how much rent we are paying? Just 60,000. So we cannot deduct 144, right? So in last month, in that case, we can only deduct 60,000 TDS. Got it? So this is section 194IB. It says who's the TDS deductor? Any individual or HF, only individual or HF. Sir, partnership firm, company can come in this? No, why? We have another section 194I for them. So for partnership firm, for company, for AOP, BY, we don't see even turnover. They have to deduct TDS in section 194I, provided the total rent of the year is more than 2.4 lakh in that case, right? But here, this section is only for individual HUF. Which individual HUF? Who are not covered under 194I. Why they were not covered? Either their last year turnover was not more than 1 crore or 50 lakh, or they were not even having a turnover. Let's say salaried SSC. Those people can come in this section. TDS deduct is any resident. Please remember that owner should be resident. If that owner is a non-resident, then you cannot deduct the TDS under section 194IB. Then 194IB will not come into picture. So that owner must be a resident. Very important. Please mark it important. Landlord of the land or building or both should be resident. That landlord, that owner should be resident. If that person is a non-resident, then please do not deduct TDS under section 194I. What would be the rate of TDS? 1%. Threshold limit, if the amount of rent for the month or part of the month is more than 50,000 rupees. Time of deduction, at the end of the year or at the end of the tenancy, whichever is earlier, right? So either in the last month of the previous year or last month of tenancy, as the case may be. Lower rate of deduction not available. And you understand, TAN is tax required to be deducted cannot exceed the rent payable of the last month. This I have already discussed. 10 is not required. And here it is a simplified TDS return also. You don't have to submit TDS return separately whenever you will be deducting TDS, as well as and when you will be depositing it, that challan will be considered as your TDS return. And the form is 26QC. And the TDS certificate would be 16C. Remember, C and C. Okay. There it was in 194IA, it was 26QB and TDS certificate was 16B. Here it is 16C. Okay. Next is section 194J. Again, mark it very, very important. This is a very important section 194J. Easy, but important for examination. This is one of the examiner's favorite section. They usually ask 194J. 194J is TDS on actually, okay, let me tell you. This is section 194J. Section 194J applies if you are paying professional services. If you are paying any amount which is related to professional services. Let's say you have hired an auditor. You are paying to an auditor. So you will be deducting TDS on under section 194J on professional services. It is also on technical services. It is also on royalty. If you are paying to any person any amount of royalty, then TDS will apply in this case. It is also on the case of non-competing fees. You remember PGBP, I have referred what is non-competing fees. So if you are paying any non-competing fees to someone, then you have to deduct TDS under section 194J. Or you are paying to your director, who is not your employee. If that person is your employee, then you will deduct TDS under section 192 salary. Although I have not discussed salary section with you as of now, I'll be discussing it today. But if you are paying to the director, and if that director is working in the capacity of an employee, then section 192 will apply. But here the director is not an employee. You are paying him not in the capacity of employee, then 194J will apply. Got it? So if this director is an employee, then if this person is an employee, then you are paying him salary, then section 192 will apply in that case. For salary, we have section 192. But let's say this director is not an employee. Let's say he's a part-time director. He normally doesn't come to your office regularly. He just comes to attend any meeting. Like let's say you are paying him meeting fees. So in that case, 194J, you will be deducting TDS to this director. So on and all, 194J applies whenever you pay professional services or you pay technical services, royalty, non-competing fees or director fees. 194J will come into picture. What is the threshold limit? Threshold limit is 30,000 rupees. If you are paying more than 30,000 rupees, then only TDS under section 194J will be applied. But here it is important that 30,000 you have to see, this 30,000 you have to see separately for professional services, separately for technical services, separately for royalty, separately for non-competing fees, and for directors there is no such limit of 30,000. Even if you are paying 1,000 to director, then you have to deduct TDS. So this 30,000 limit will not apply to in this case, in the case of directors, right? Please remember this. This is something very, very important. So if you are paying meeting fees or sitting fees to any of your director, let's say 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, deduct TDS under section 194J. Deduct TDS under section 194J, right? Okay. I'm again repeating, this 30,000 limit will applicable to these four. It will not be applicable for director. For director, there is no limit. Whatever amount you are paying, deduct TDS under section 194J. Second thing, I was saying that for professional services, please apply 30,000 separately. For technical services, apply 30,000 separately. For royalty, apply 30,000 separately. For non-competing, apply 30,000 separately. What does this mean? This means that, let's say there is a company ABC Limited, and they are paying to Mr. Z. They are paying to Mr. Z. They are paying 25,000 to Mr. Z as professional services, and they are paying 28,000 rupees as technical services. To whom? To Mr. Z. Receiver is one person, Mr. Z. So here we are paying 25,000 rupees as professional services, 25,000 rupees as 28,000 rupees, sorry, as technical services. We do not have to club it together. Please keep it separate. Please keep it separate. So for professional services, this is 25,000, which is not more than 30,000. For technical services, again, it is not more than 30,000. TDS will not apply. You can pay the entire amount, TDS will not apply. But if this 25,000 is professional, 28,000, if this would have been professional, then you can club for professional. So for professional, please keep it separate. For professional services, keep it separate. For technicals, royalty, non-competing fees, keep it separate, right? Otherwise, in all these sections which we have done earlier, we have to, if we are paying to one person, we have to aggregate. You remember in section 194I, I told you that if we are paying rent for building, if we are paying rent of machine, we have to club it together because the receiver is one person. Because the receiver is one person, in that case, we can aggregate. If it is more than 2.4 lakh, then we will deduct TDS. But here in 194J, specifically, I am saying that please keep this 30,000 rupees separately for each type of services. For professional, separate. Technical, royalty, non-competing director, please keep it separate. But for director, there is no such limit of 30,000. Even if you are paying 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, deduct TDS. Got it? Second important point is that what is the rate of TDS? The rate of TDS in 194J is generally 10%. Generally, it is 10%. But for technical services, if you are paying for technical services, the rate of TDS would be 2%. Initially, it was also 10%, but later on, there was an amendment, and for technical services, they have made it 2%. Why? Because actually, let's say there is a company, Z Limited is a company. They have given a contract. They have given a contract to someone, let's say for maintenance of their lift. There was a lift in their building, there was an escalator, and for maintenance of that contract, they have given this contract to Mr., let's say Mr. And Z Limited is of the opinion that we have given a contract, so we will deduct TDS under section 194C. How much? 1% or 2%. If this is Mr. A, 1%, let's say. If this is the company, let's say 2%. Okay. If this is other individual or HUF, you understand who is the contractor. If he is not individual or HUF, then 2%. Okay. So in 194C, TDS rate was 1% or 2%. So what was Z Limited saying? Z Limited was saying that we will deduct TDS under section 194C. But what was AO saying? Assessing officer was saying, no, no, no. This is the technical services. You are getting a technical services. So it will come under section 194J 10%. So assessing officer was of the view, deduct TDS at a rate of 10%, but they were of the view, no, we will deduct TDS at a rate of 1% or 2%. So there were so many cases which were piling up in the court. There were so many cases, there was so much of litigation on this particular point. So what income tax did is, the income tax made an amendment over here. They said that, okay, for technical services, we are reducing the rate to 2%. So all these litigations are now on hold, right? It has stopped now. So there is no problem now. Now Z Limited will say, okay, we will deduct TDS at a rate of 2%. So whether you will keep in 194C or you will keep it in the section 194J, TDS rate will be 2%, not 1%. Here you will not see that in 194J, you will not see that it is this person is an individual or HUF. No, here the rate would be 2% only. In 194C, I understand it could be 1 or 2%, but here in 194J, for technical services, it is 2%. For others, it is 10%, right? Second thing is that in case of royalty, you have to see if this royalty belongs to, if this royalty is related to cinematographic film. If this royalty is related to cinematographic films, then also TDS rate will be 2%. What is cinematographic films royalty? Let's say there is any producer or director, he gives rights to let's say PVR, they give right to PVR, they give rights to INOX so that they can display their movies. So right, they give their rights so that that particular cinema hall can display their movies. So for the cinema hall pays them royalty to these producer or directors. So in that case, also TDS rate will be 2%. But for other royalty, the TDS rate will be 10%. Only for this royalty cinematographic films, the rate of TDS would be 2% under section 194J. So for technical services, 194J will apply 2%. For royalty, if it is case of other royalty, 10%. But if it is case of cinematographic films, the rate of royalty would be 2%. Third thing, if we are giving any, if we are taking any type of professional services, let's say only for the purpose of call center, only for the purpose of call center. So we have given a contract to someone who that person is giving us the services of a call center. Let's say there are so many of our customers who calls to us, so we have given this particular services to one, we have outsourced this to some of the call center. So it's a kind of contract which we have given to them, so that is also 2% TDS rate will apply in that case. So otherwise the TDS rate will be 30 will be 10%, and the limit is 30,000 for each individually. Please don't club it. And for directors there is no limit. And the 194J, there is a rate of 2% also in case you are paying for technical services. Royalty in case of cinematographic films, other royalty 10%. Only for cinematographic films it is 2%. And in case if the person is engaged in the business of call centers. See, TDS deductor can be any person who is paying the amount. If this person is an individual in HUF, if this person is individual in HUF, then we will see the turnover of the last year, that you understand. TDS deductee could be any person. And for which type of services we are paying the amount? For professional services, technical services, royalty, non-competing fees, or director remuneration other than salary. Why I have written other than salary? Because if this would have been salary, then section 192 will apply in that case. Rate of TDS is 2%. In case of technical services, it is 2%. Not for professional. Technical services, it is 2%. For royalty in the nature of consideration of cinematographic films, and if the receiver is engaged in the business of operation of call center, then 2%. But in other cases, it is 10%. So how much is for professional services? 10%. How much is for other royalty? 10%. Non-competing fees 10%. Director remuneration 10%. But if it is case of technical services, 2%. If it is royalty, only which royalty? Cinematographic films, 2%. In case of operation of call center, 2%. Right? Time of reduction, the time of payment of credit, whichever is earlier. Threshold limit I have already discussed with you, 30,000 rupees for each type of service, for each type of services, right? But for director remuneration, there is no such threshold limit. 194J shall not apply in case of professional services which are for personal nature. But if you are taking any kind of services which is related to personal nature, then 194J will not apply, right? 194K I have already discussed with you. 194K is related to mutual fund. Yes, sir, we now know, because 194 is dividend. 194K is related to income from mutual fund. 10% TDS rate, threshold limit 5,000. We have already discussed this. 194 LA I have already discussed when I was discussing 194 IA, purchase of immovable property, but here it is compulsory acquisition. If person is doing compulsory acquisition, who would be the acquirer in that case? Either government, local authority, etc. These, they could be the acquirer in that case. So if they are acquiring any immovable property compulsory other than agricultural land, the TDS rate will be 10%. TDS rate will be 10%. Threshold limit is 2.5 lakh. Please understand this. Threshold limit is 2.5 lakh. In 194 IA, how much was the threshold limit? 50 lakh rupees. TDS rate was 1%. Here, the TDS rate is 10%. And for compulsory acquisition, we have a specific section. Please do not apply 194 IA in that case. Please apply 194 LA in that case, right? 2.5 lakh. Okay. 194M, the third section which does not require 10 number. So we have three sections: 194IA, 194IB, and 194M. These three sections does not require 10 number also. So here, individual and HUF who are not having their turnover of more than 1 crore or 50 lakh as the case may be, or even who are not into business and profession, they can deduct TDS also. So 194M is for TDS deducted would be individual HUF who are not covered under 194C, 194H or 194J. Why 194C, H or J is written over here? Because 194M applies whenever if there is any individual or HUF who gives any contract, sir, it will be covered under 194C. But in 194C, only, first of all, only those individual HUF can come whose turnover is more than 1 crore or 50 lakh. But if their turnover is not more than 1 crore 50 lakh, they will be coming under section 194M. Second is that if you are giving, if you are taking any professional services, so if any individual HUF is paying for professional services, and if they are not able to cover themselves under section 194J, why not 194J? Their turnover was not there. Or if they are paying any commission or brokerage. So if this individual HUF is paying any commission or brokerage, we understand we have a section 194H. But in 194H, there is only that individual HUF can come whose turnover in the last year is more than 50 lakh rupees or 1 crore, as the case may be. But in that case, who were not covered under 194C, 194H or 194J, they can come in this section. They can come in this section. So the TDS deductor would be individual HUF who are not covered under those sections. So this section is related to if you give any contract, it could even be of personal nature also, but it is of a very high value. Why of high value? Because income tax would like to track these kinds of transaction. So if you are an individual HUF not covered under 194C or 194J, you are paying professional services, you are paying commission or brokerage, which is more than 50 lakh rupees, which is more than 50 lakh rupees, a very high value transaction. Then you have to deduct TDS at a rate of 5%. To whom you are paying? You are paying to any resident. So let's say there is a question in your, let's say in your examination, it comes, let's say that Mr. X is a salaried person, Mr. X is a salaried person, and he is paying 55 lakh, 56 lakh, 57 lakh to Mr. Y. And this Mr. Y is a contractor. He is getting his residential house built up. So let's say there is a salaried assessee. He is paying to any contractor for his personal house also, which, and the amount which he is paying, which is more than 50 lakh rupees, aggregate in the year is more than 50 lakh rupees, then this section will apply. You have to deduct TDS at a rate of 5%, right? And here again, we are giving you very simple compliances. You don't have to file your TDS return separately. Whatever challan you will fill, that return will be considered as if it has been filled with the challan itself. So here TDS return is in the form of challan come statement, that is 26QD, and TDS certificate also you have to issue to that person or to whom you are making the payment in the form of 16D. Right? 10 is not required under section 194M. This is also a very important section. Please mark it important. This is an important section. Please remember it applies only for individual HUF who were not covered under section 194C contract, 194J professional services, or commissioners brokerage 194H. If they were covered under those sections, then they can deduct TDS under those sections. But if they were not covered, only individual HUF who are not covered. So generally I can say it is mainly for personal purpose. But this 100% it will not be mainly for personal purpose, because if there is any person who is getting his office building made and he's paying for that contract, but his turnover for the last year is not more than 1 crore 50 lakh, then in that case he will be deducting TDS under section 194M, right? Okay guys, next section is section 194N, TDS on cash withdrawal. See, this is the kind of special section. Why? Because all the section which we have seen so far, TDS was deducted because the person assessee is earning income. He's earning income. Income tax would like to track the income. That is the reason they have introduced the concept of TDS. But this section 194N is a bit special section. Why special? Because here the assessee is not earning income. He is just withdrawing, he or she is just withdrawing the amount from their bank account or from post office or from cooperative bank account, wherever they are having their bank account. So they are just withdrawing the amount. But also in this case, TDS will be applied in this case also. Why? Income tax would like to track this high value cash transaction which is happening. So if you are withdrawing cash more than, in most of the cases it is 1 crore, but in some cases it is 20 lakh also. So if you are withdrawing heavy cash from your account, if you are withdrawing heavy cash from your account, income tax would like to see why you are withdrawing cash from your bank account, right? So there is a section 194N. It says TDS on cash withdrawal. So if you have a account in any bank, any cooperative bank or any post office, this section is going to apply. You are any person, you are withdrawing the amount from the bank. So if you will withdraw the amount from your bank in excess of 1 crore, in excess of 1 crore, then we are going to deduct TDS. In some cases, it is in excess of 20 lakh also, but generally it is in excess of 1 crore, we are going to deduct TDS. So first understand when we will apply the limit of 1 crore and when we will apply the limit of 20 lakh rupees. Okay. Uh, so first of all, understand some basic things. This is section 194N. Generally it says that whenever you withdraw more than rupees 1 crore, generally it says when you will withdraw more than rupees 1 crore, then this section will be attracted, and TDS rate will be, here there are two TDS rate. Generally it is 2%, but sometimes it could be 5% also. Let me give you first a brief introduction about this section. Section 194N is TDS on cash withdrawal. It's a special section. Why it is a special section? Because generally the sections which we have seen so far, their TDS was deducted because the assessee was earning income. But here the assessee was not earning income. That person is just withdrawing the amount from their bank account, cooperative bank account or post office. And in that case also we are saying that TDS provisions will apply. So who will deduct TDS? The bank, the post office, cooperative bank, those who are paying from where you are withdrawing the money. So whenever you will withdraw the amount in excess of more than 1 crore, that bank, cooperative bank or post office will going to deduct TDS. So let's say it is more than 1 crore. So let's say you are having your bank account and you are withdrawing the amount. And in the entire year, let's say you have withdrawn in cash. This is in cash if you will withdraw. See, if you will issue check to someone, account pay check, then this section will not come into picture. Only this section will come into picture only when you are withdrawing from your bank account. And that too, you are getting cash. So income tax would like to track these cash transactions. So let's say during the year, you have withdrawn 130 lakh rupees from your bank account. This section will say we will deduct 2% TDS. Who will deduct? The bank will deduct. From wherever you are withdrawing this amount, that bank, cooperative bank or post office is going to deduct 2% TDS. Or how much amount? In excess of 1 crore, in excess of 100 lakh. 1 crore is 100 lakh. So in excess of 1 crore, we are going to deduct TDS. So in this case, if you are withdrawing 130 lakh, then 2% rate will be applied on in excess of 100 lakh. In excess of 1 crore, that is on 30 lakh, 2% TDS will be applied. So how much would it would be? 60,000. 60,000 TDS will be in excess of, first of all, please understand, in excess of 1 crore TDS will be deducted, right? So generally it is in excess of 1 crore, but sometimes it is, the second part of this section is that sometimes it is even after 20 lakh we will be deducting TDS. After 20 lakh we will be deducting TDS. So when we will be deducting after 20 lakh, when we will be deducting after 1 crore, we have to see it. So it depends upon the person who is withdrawing this amount, the person who is withdrawn this amount. We have to see whether he is filing his returns of income on time, that is on or before the due date, or they are filing it late. Whether you are filing your returns on time, ROI on time, or you are filing your returns late, right? So it depends in which category you are in, whether you file your returns on time or whether you file your returns late. So we can also call them non-filers. These are non-filers. Non-filers, we can say that who don't file their return, either they are not filing their return or they are filing their return late. I'm calling them non-filers. And they are people who are continuously filing their returns on time. So first of all, we have to see in which category this assessee is in. So let's say if this assessee is in this category, they file their returns on time, then the bank, the post office or cooperative bank will deduct TDS if you withdraw more than 1 crore rupees. So I can say like this, if the person is coming in this category, they used to file their returns on time. Good. Getting this? So up to 100 lakh up to 1 crore, there would be no TDS. In excess of 1 crore, there will be TDS. So 0 to, I can say 0 to 100 lakh, there will be no TDS. And if it is more than 100 lakh to any amount to infinity, it would be 2% TDS. So here, if this person is filing their returns on time, if this person is coming into this category, if this person falls in this category, then up to 100 lakh no TDS, above 100 lakh there would be 2% TDS. So let's say this person has withdrawn 140 lakh and this person belongs to this category. So up to 100 lakh, on 100 lakh there would be no TDS. In excess of 100, that is 40 lakh, there will be a TDS of 2%. Getting it? Okay. If let's say this person falls in this category of non-filer category, if this person is in this category that they don't file their returns on time or they never file their return, if this person will come in this category, then we are going to deduct TDS. We are going to deduct TDS in excess of 20 lakh only. So I can say like this: 0, if the person is coming in this category, this person is falling in this category of non-filers. In that case, I can say 0 to 20 lakh, there will be no TDS. Above 20 lakh till 100 lakh, the TDS will be 2%. Under section 194N, we are doing which section? Section 194N, TDS on cash withdrawal. And see, here we were not levying the TDS up till 100 lakh, but here we are imposing the TDS after 20 lakh only. So from till 20 lakh, no TDS. After 20 lakh till 100 lakh, there would be 2% TDS. And above 100 lakh, if you withdraw above 100 lakh to infinity, this is 100 lakh, there would be 5% TDS, right? So let's say I'm taking an example. Let's say there is person Mr. X, and Mr. X belongs to this category of non-filer. He was not submitting his return on time, so he's a non-filer. So this person is a non-filer. So let's say during this year, during our previous year, let's say it is given in the question that in the previous year 23-24, this person has withdrawn 150 lakh. This person has withdrawn 150 lakh from his bank account. So, and this person belongs to this category of non-filers category, or they are filing their return, but they were late in filing their return. It was not filed on or before the due date. So, if it is given in your examination that this person has withdrawn 1.5 crore from his bank account, that is 150 lakh, then how much TDS will apply in this case? So, simple, up to 20 lakh, no TDS. Next 80 lakh, 20 to 100, that is 80 lakh, 2% TDS. Above 100 lakh, there will be 5% TDS. So how much TDS will be there in this case? So let's say this person is a non-filer category and this person is withdrawing how much amount? 150 lakh. So first 20 lakh, no TDS, right? Next 80 lakh, 20 to 100. Next 20 to 100, that is 80 lakh. There would be TDS of 2% TDS. And in excess of 100 lakh, so how much he is withdrawing? 150. In excess of 100 lakh is how much? 50 lakh. So next 50 lakh or remaining 50 lakh, 5% TDS. So how much it will be? On first 20 lakh, there will be no TDS. On 80 lakh, there will be 2% TDS. So on 80 lakh, it becomes 1,60,000 TDS. And on 50 lakh, there will be 5% TDS. 2,50,000. So how much would be the total TDS? It would be 4,10,000 is the TDS under section 194. If you would like to write this down, you can write this down also. So TDS under section 194N will be 4,10,000. Getting it? If this person belongs to non-filer category. But if this person would have been in this category, that this person is filing their ROI on time, then 0 to 100 lakh, on 100 lakh, there would be no TDS. And on 50 lakh, which is in excess of 100 lakh, there would be just 2% TDS in that case, right? It would have been 1 lakh rupees. That's it, right? But here it is 4,10,000 rupees. Now we have to understand that who is considered as a non-filer and who is considered as a filer. Who is how we are supposed to identify the category, in which category will this person will fall. So we will see their last three returns. We will see their last three returns. So please understand this carefully. Let us say this is previous year 23-24. In this year, the person is withdrawing the amount. In this year, the person is withdrawing the amount, and we have to see whether we have to apply the TDS after 20 lakh or we have to apply the TDS after 1 crore rupees. So for this, we will see his last three returns. We will see his last three returns. Last three returns is, we will see his last three returns: previous year 2021, previous year 21-22, previous year 22-23. These are the last 3 years, right? So we have to see his last three. Please understand this carefully, guys. So if we, in this year, he is withdrawing the amount, so bank, post office or cooperative bank would like to see that in which category will this person fall, whether this person will fall in filers category, those who file their return on time, or this person will fall in non-filer category, because we have different threshold limits for that. For filers, we have 1 crore. For non-filers, we have 20 lakh rupees. So they will see their last 3 years. They will see their last 3 years, whether the return of these 3 years is filed on time or not. If the answer comes, yes, this return is also filed on time, this return is also filed on time, this return is also filed on time. That is all three returns are filed on time, then this person will be considered to be in filers category, 100 lakh category, right? So we will put this person in this category if all three returns are filed on time. But if any of the year return is not filed on time, let's say this year is filed on time, this year is filed on time, but this year is not filed on time, or any of them. Let's say this year return was not filed on time, this was on time, this was on time. So if even one single return was not filed on time, this person will fall in non-filer category. So in that case, this person will fall in late filers, or I can say non-filers category. Got it? So how you will see? You will see last 3 years. If all 3 years are filed on time, we will give them 1 crore limit. But if any of the return was not filed on time, we will give them 20 lakh rupees limit. Got it? Second important thing, and this is something which is important now. We have to see last three returns. Now tell me, let's say there is a person, Mr. Z. He has his bank account. He has his bank account in ICICI Bank. And Mr. Z is withdrawing the amount in the month of April. Please remember, guys, this is specifically, I'm saying in the month of, let's say, April 2023. This is previous year 23-24. We have first month. And Mr. Z, in the very first month, he is withdrawing rupees 21 lakh. He is withdrawing rupees 21 lakh. Please think it very practically. Mr. Z is withdrawing 21 lakh rupees in April 23-20. In April 23. This is the first month of this year, and this person is withdrawing 21 lakh. ICICI Bank would like to know whether they should deduct TDS. That is, this person will be in non-filer category or filer category, right? So if this person is in the filers category, then we are not going to deduct TDS, because in that case, the threshold limit would be 1 crore. But if this person is a non-filer category, then after 20 lakh, we have to deduct TDS. So ICICI Bank would like to know that whether this person has filed his return of income on time or they have not filed on time. So we understand, if this person is withdrawing in this year, then we have to see last 3 years, and last 3 years is this, this, and this. Correct? Tell me, this year return is filed on time. This year return was filed on time. But here, when ICICI found that this year return is not yet filed, is not yet filed. So should ICICI presume, yes, that this year return is not filed, so we will fall this person, we will take this person in non-filer category? The answer is no. Why? Because Mr. Z says that generally I file my return on or before the due date. This return is filed, this return is filed. This return, why this return is not filed in April 2023? Because he's saying, Mr. Z is saying, sir, the due date of my return filing is 31st of July. So tell me, previous year 22-23, and if he's saying that the due date is 31st July, 31st July of which year? 2023. So this person is saying, sir, actually my due date is 31st of July 2023, and this is not yet expired. Sorry, it is 31st July 2023, sir. This is the due date of this year return, and I'll be filing somewhere in the month of June. I'll be filing my return somewhere in the month of June or in the month of July. That is on or before this due date. So I am in the category of filer. I'm in the category of filer in this case. But tell me whether it is sure, that this person will file this return on or before the due date, or he will file the return after the due date. The answer is no. Why? Because right now ICICI Bank would like to know in the month of April itself, at the time of withdrawal, ICICI Bank would like to know whether you have filed your last 3 years return on time or not. So in this case, if the amount is getting withdrawn before this due date, because this due date has not yet arrived, right? This due date is not yet arrived. Please think it very practically. Right now, you are in April 2023. You are, let's say, you are representative of ICICI Bank. So in this month itself, this person is withdrawing. So you will see that this due date is not yet expired. In that case, you will ignore this year. You will ignore this year, but you will take 3 years. So which 3 years will you will take? The of those 3 years where due date was already expired. So this year due date is not yet expired. So please cut it off. Then take those 3 years whose due date was expired. So 21-22 due date is expired because it would have been 31st July 22. Yes, it is expired. You are withdrawing the amount in April 23 and this due date is expired. You can take this year, and here you will take previous year 1920. So here you will take these 3 years, right? So you have to take last 3 years. Which last 3 years? Whose due date has already expired. In this case, although last 3 years was technically, layman will say this, the last 3 years is this, but you cannot take these 3 years. Why? Because this is one of the year where the due date is not yet expired. So in this case, you will take these last 3 years. Got it? So now you know how you will come to know how the bank will come to know whether the return is filed on time or not. So if last 3 years, which last 3 years? Whose due date has expired at the time of withdrawal, whose due date is expired, you will see those 3 years. If all 3 years give us check, all 3 years return was filed on time, then this person will come in this particular category where his TDS will be deducted only after 1 crore and only 2%. But if this person will come in this category, then after 20 lakh, we will going to deduct the TDS 2%. And once the amount withdrawn goes above 100 lakh, we are going to deduct 5% TDS, right? Now there is a small amendment. The amendment is in this year, there is an amendment in this section. It says that if the person who is withdrawing the amount, is a cooperative society, it's a cooperative society. In that case, we are increasing the limit of 1 crore to 3 crores. In case the person who is withdrawing the amount, if the person is withdrawing the amount is a cooperative society, so 1 crore limit is increased to 3 crore limit only for in case the person who is withdrawing the amount is a cooperative society. So what changes we will make? Wherever we are seeing 1 crore or 100 lakh, we will make it 3 crores. So if this person is a cooperative society who is withdrawing the amount, who is withdrawing the amount, that person is a cooperative society, right? So cut this 100 lakh, make it 3 crores. So up to 0 to, if this person is filing, if this cooperative society is filing their return on time, so 0 to 3 crore, no TDS, 3 crore, wherever you are seeing 100 lakh, just cross it and make it 300 lakh, 3 crores. So 0 to 3 crore, no TDS. More than 3 crore, 2% TDS. Here, wherever you are seeing 100 lakh, not 20 lakh is not replaced, 100 lakh is replaced. So if this cooperative society is coming in this particular category, non-filer category, 0 to 20, keep it as it is, no TDS. 20 to 3 crores, 20 to 300 lakh, 20 lakh to 300 lakh, 2%, 300 lakh to infinity, 5%. So wherever you are saying 100 lakh, please cut it and write 300 lakh. Only in case when the person who is withdrawing the amount is a cooperative society, right? So this is section 194N. And I have discussed the amendment also. Amendment is only for the cooperative society. If cooperative society is withdrawing the amount from their bank account. TDS deductor is bank, cooperative bank, or post office, because you can open your account in bank, you can open an account in cooperative bank, you can open an account in post office. TDS deductor is any person. Time of deduction at the time of payment. At the time of payment means whenever you are withdrawing the amount in excess of 20 lakh or in excess of 1 crore and also 3 crore as the case may be. So threshold limit is for cash withdrawal in excess of 1 crore, for non-filers in excess of 20 lakh. Right. So I have written it over here also. Rate of TDS. The person who have filed their return on time, 2% in excess of 1 crore. But the people who have not filed their return on time, 2% in excess of 20 lakh and 5% in excess of 1 crore. I have already discussed this with you, right? Okay. Amendment is there. If cooperative society is withdrawing the amount, then please, wherever there is 1 crore written over here, please replace it by 3 crores rupees. Lower rate of deduction is not available in this case. Right? Who are non-filers? I have already discussed with you. We have to see last 3 years return, and which last 3 whose due date has expired. Those 3 returns, if all 3 returns are filed on time, you will be considered as in a filer category. If any of the return is not filed on time, this person will be considered in non-filer category. That I have already discussed. Take last 3 years, which the due date has already expired. Right? This is important. Section 194N will not apply if the person who is withdrawing the amount is a government. If government is withdrawing the amount, they can withdraw any amount. If government is withdrawing the amount, if bank, cooperative bank, or post office, because you understand one bank can have account in another bank, they can withdraw the amount. In that case, there is no problem. Or bank, cooperative bank, or post office can withdraw the amount, or the business correspondents of the bank. We understand who are business correspondents. Business correspondents majorly in rural area, we don't have bank branches, so business correspondents act as a bank. So business correspondent can withdraw the amount, there is no problem. And white label ATM operators, you understand, the people who are white label ATM operators, the people who are engaged in such kind of business, those who fill the ATM machines. So they must be withdrawing the amount in cash and they have to go and fill the ATM machines. So these ATM fillers, right? Those who fill ATM, those who will cash in these ATM machines, they can withdraw the cash of more than 20 lakh or whatever it is. 194N will not apply in these cases. Right, so 194N is important. Also, you should know 194N is not applicable in these cases. There is another section 194P. It was introduced last year. 194P. 194P is on those assessee who are mainly senior citizen, and here the senior citizen is 75 years or more. Here the senior citizen is 75 years or more plus resident. So let's say if there is a senior citizen and if they are earning income only from two sources, one is their pension, another is their interest. So if they are getting only pension income and interest income, and that too only in one bank, let's say this person, first of all, that person should be a senior citizen. And here senior citizen does not mean 60 years. Here the senior citizen means 75 years or more. Generally, in all the section we see senior citizen is more than 60 years or more. But here, for the purpose of this section, senior citizen means 75 years or more. So let's say if this senior citizen, 75 years is quite old age. So now government is giving them relaxation. They are saying, let's say these senior citizens generally they have bank account in only one bank. Because why? Because these people are quite old now. They don't want to open separate accounts. They would like to just maintain one account. And in one account, whatever is their pension, that comes in that account. Plus they must be having some amount in their saving bank account or their FD, etc., they earn interest income. So these people, if they are earning two types of income, what it is, pension and bank interest. Bank interest could be on saving bank account, FD also, right? And if this pension bank interest is coming only in one bank, then they are eligible for 194P. Then only 194P will apply. So let's say if their pension is coming in State Bank of India, SBI, and their interest is coming from Canara Bank, then they will not be eligible for 194P. 194P will only be applicable if their pension as well as their interest is only coming from one bank, right? So TDS deductor would be here. What they have given an advantage is that the bank itself will deduct TDS. Bank itself will deduct TDS on the entire amount. On the entire amount, they will take care of their pension also and of interest also. Whatever is the total amount, we will going to deduct TDS. We are going to deduct TDS as per their income. As per their income, whatever is their income is, we will calculate their income, we will calculate the tax on that income, and we are going to deduct TDS, and the bank itself will be depositing that TDS to the government. So in this case, they don't have to worry. These senior citizens need not have to worry regarding their return also. They don't have to file their ROI also. So they would be relaxed if their entire TDS has been deducted by way of section 194P. So 194P says TDS deductor could be any bank which is notified by central government. Generally, these are nationalized banks. TDS deductee, for whom we are deducting TDS, that person is a senior citizen. And which type of senior citizen? Resident plus 75 years or more of age. And this person is having only two types of income. One is pension income and interest income. So what is the rate of TDS? There is no specific rate of TDS. This is like salary. I'll be discussing 192 also with you, salary. In salary also, there is no TDS rate. We deduct TDS at the average rate. So we see whatever the income which this person is earning. Let's say this person pension income is so such and such amount, his interest income is such and such amount. Let's say total comes to 10 lakh rupees. Total comes to 10 lakh rupees. We will calculate whatever is the tax rate on this 10 lakh rupees, whether this person is following optional scheme or this person is following default tax regime. So as the person, we will ask him that which regime are you following. So we will be calculating tax on that 10 lakh. We will be adding cess also here. We will be adding cess also here, and the entire amount of tax will be deposited by the bank itself. So bank will deduct amount from their bank account, and they will deduct and they will deposit the payment in TDS amount in the to the income tax department. So rate of TDS, there is no such rate. It depends upon the income of that particular person. And these people, because they are earning income only from two sources, so they are, and their tax is also being deducted and deposited to the government with cess also. Generally, I have already mentioned that in TDS, whenever a rate is mentioned, we don't consider cess. Only we consider cess in case of salary, in case of non-residents, and this is also one exception because this is also a kind of salary income, because pension comes under salary, right? So here, this person is exempted from filing their ROI. If the TDS is deducted under section 194P, then this person is exempted from filing their ROI, right? And if assessee has accounts with different banks, it is not that person would not be eligible. If I have already discussed, if this person has more than one or two, three bank accounts in different banks, that let's say one is State Bank of India, there is your Canara Bank, third one is in some other bank, then this person will not be eligible, right? It should be only one bank. Okay. Next section is 194Q. Guys, right now I'm not discussing 194, although I can discuss, but it would be more beneficial if I'll discuss first TCS with you. So in the next lecture, I'll be discussing TCS, then I'll be discussing 194Q with you. So because it has some implications with TCS also. So for the time being, I am making this pending 194Q. I'm not discussing in this lecture. I'll be discussing with TCS provisions, right? Because it has some similarity. Then I'll be able to give you the difference also. What is the difference between 194Q and 206C, C1H? Then I'll be discussing that section also. There I'll be discussing both these things simultaneously. So as of now, I'm not discussing 194Q. 194R. 194R is if a person, do you remember section 28? Section 28 is charging section of PGBP. It says about charging section of PGBP. There are so many types of income which are taxable as PGBP income. And there we understand that if a person is having a business or a profession, and if this person receives any gift, any perquisites, any facilities from their clients, from their customers, these perquisites are not from employer. If they are coming from employer, it will be taxed under salary, right? But we understand in section 28, even if we receive any gifts from our clients, from our customers during the course of our business or profession, then also this income becomes PGBP income. So all the gifts which we receive during the course of our business or profession, this becomes our PGBP income. But the thing is that it was observed by the income tax department that most of the people don't show this income. They don't show this income, and if they are not showing this income, it remains untaxed. So to plug that loophole, 194R was inserted. So 194R says if any person is running is if any person is having income from PGBP, is running his own business or profession, and he receives any gifts or perquisites in excess of 20,000, in excess of 20,000 rupees, then TDS will be deducted by the person who is paying them the gift. It is their responsibility to deduct TDS at a rate of 10% in that case. So the threshold limit is 20,000 rupees, rate of TDS is 10%. So this section says person providing any benefits or perquisite, a person who is giving them a gift. Let's say there is a pharmaceutical company. There is a pharmaceutical company, they are giving gift to doctors. So doctors are receiving gifts in the course of their profession, right? And if the value of the such gift is more than 20,000 rupees, so that pharmaceutical company is under an obligation to deduct TDS at rate of 10%, right? So TDS deductor would be any person, their clients, their customers, their suppliers who are giving gifts to them. So person providing any benefit or perquisites. But yes, if individual or HUF is providing gifts, then their turnover should exceed 1 crore or 50 lakh rupees. Who is the TDS deductee? The person who is receiving the gift in the course of business or profession. So these are resident person carrying any business or profession. So time of deduction at the time of providing such benefit or gift. So whenever we are giving these benefits, these gifts to them, we will deduct 10% TDS if the aggregate amount is more than 20,000 rupees. So if these, you understand, if these gifts are in the nature of not in monetary form, but if they are in kind, then first of all, we will make sure that the tax should be deposited. We will say to that particular person, we will be giving you the gift, but first you have to pay the tax on this. And please bring us evidence that you have paid the tax. Then we will release this gift to you. That is same as what we did in section 194B or double P, right? It could be what kind of gifts it could be. Let's say if there is a person who is a YouTuber, he's an influencer, he's a social media influencer. So we understand that there are so many different types of YouTubers. They are cooking, those who are engaged in cooking videos, or they are engaged in tech videos, or they are engaged in different types of genre. So in that case, let's say there is a tech YouTuber. That person is used to give reviews of mobile phone. So let's say there is a company, there is a company Samsung. They gives mobile phone of rupees. Let's say the value of this mobile phone was 1 lakh rupees. They give a phone to a YouTuber, to a influencer, so that he can give reviews of this mobile phone, right? And this person makes a good reviews of this mobile phone, and then Samsung says, okay, you can keep this 1 lakh rupees mobile phone with you. So here they have given as a gift. So this person YouTuber is carrying his own business or profession. Yeah, right. It's a kind of profession. So if you are getting this amount, if you are getting this gift, it will be a kind of perquisite. TDS will be deducted under section 194R. So this is in kind. So whenever they will be giving it to him, they will be asking to deposit the tax also. If this is in the form of money, then they will be deducting TDS, right? But let's say if this person gives it back after reviewing, this person gives back this mobile phone. In that case, there is no perquisite. Why? Because he has received that particular mobile phone after some time, after the review, this person is giving it back. In that case, it will not be a perquisite. But if this person retains this particular gift, retains this particular mobile phone, then in that case, it will be a gift. Correct? So the deductor, whenever this deductor, this is, although this is a very small amendment which came this time, this particular point, it says that we don't have to see whenever this they are giving you as a gift. We don't have to see whether it is taxable in your hand, whether it is exempt in your hands. Whenever we will be releasing these gifts to you, we will be deducting TDS on it. So we don't have to see. The deductor is not required to check whether such benefit or perquisite is taxable in the hands of recipient or not. Let's say that YouTuber says, "No, sir, my income is not more than basic exemption limit. Don't deduct tax on it." No, Samsung will going to deduct TDS on it, right? So this is a small amendment. This is a small line which is inserted in this particular section. This section was introduced last year. So this is a small amendment which is made this year. And how we will value the gift? If it is in the form of money, we can understand there is no problem. But if it is in kind, in that case, let's say Samsung is providing it from their own resources. Let's say Samsung is the manufacturer of that mobile phone, and they are giving this mobile phone to any tech YouTuber. So what would be the value of this mobile phone? The same value which they charge from normal customers. That would be the value. Let's say if this Samsung is giving some other gift, let's say Samsung has given a car. Now, in that case, Samsung does not manufacture car, right? Samsung manufactures car? No, I don't think Samsung manufactures car. So, what would the value of that gift? The purchase price, the amount for which they have purchased the car. That would be the purchase price. That would be the value of the gift. So, if the provider has purchased such benefit or purchase, let's say in my case, Samsung has purchased the car, then what would be the value of the purchase? The purchase price. But if the provider manufactures such items, let's say Samsung mobile phone manufacturer, so if they are giving you mobile phone, then what would be the value of the perquisite? So the same value which they charge from the normal customers, that will be the value. So it is written over here. So I've given some examples also. You can read them. These are the examples. Then it would be taxable, right? Okay. So there is a section 192 TDS on salary which I have to cover, and 192A TDS on premature withdrawal of PF. Okay, let us complete this, then I'll come to 192. Section 192A TDS premature withdrawal of provident fund. Let's say we understand, if you remember the chapter of salary, I have discussed with you recognized provident fund. So whenever this RPF gets mature, if you are withdrawing the amount from this RPF, so if you are withdrawing the amount after 5 years, if you are withdrawing the amount from RPF after 5 years, it is exempt. It is exempt. Or even if you are withdrawing the amount before 5 years, this we have discussed in the chapter of salary. If you have withdrawn the amount before 5 years, but it was due to whether it was due to some certain reasons. What are the reasons? That the employee met within some accident, or due to his ill health, now he's not able to work. That is the reason he has left the job and he is withdrawing this amount. Or if there is a shutdown case, the employer business is curtailed or it is shut down, in that case there were circumstances which are out of the control of the employee. That is the reason that person has to leave that particular job, and now he is withdrawing the amount. So if you will withdraw the amount after 5 years, due to any reason, if it is after 5 years, it will be exempt. Also, if you are withdrawing the amount before 5 years, but it was due to those reasons which are mentioned over there, due to employee ill health, or the employer business is getting shut down or curtailed, or any of the division is getting closed, in that case, this amount which you will receive, this is exempt. In both the cases, it will be exempt. It will be exempt in these cases. And if we understand a simple thumb rule, if income is exempt in your hands, there will be no TDS. There will be no TDS. So there is a section 192A, which says whenever you will withdraw the PEF, there would be TDS will apply. But in these cases, if you are withdrawing the PF after 5 years, or if it is before 5 years, but due to those reasons, then it is exempt. So no TDS. So 192A will not come into picture. So when will 192A will come into picture? Only in such cases, if you are withdrawing before 5 years. So 192A will come into picture only when you are withdrawing before 5 years, and not because of these reasons. You are just withdrawing it casually. The employee is not met with an accident. That person is not of ill health. The business is not shut down. The reason of withdrawing was not of these, but due to any other reason. So if the person is withdrawing the amount from PF, if the person is withdrawing the amount from RPF, and which is before 5 years and not because of any reason, then it is taxable. Then whatever amount you will withdraw, it will become taxable, right? And 192A will apply in that case. TDS will be deducted at a rate of 10%. The threshold limit is 50,000. If the amount withdrawn is more than 50,000 rupees, then 10% TDS will be deducted in this case. Got it? So I'm repeating it once again. Section 192. Section 192 is withdrawal from your recognized provident fund. So if you are withdrawing after 5 years, no problem. This amount is exempt. TDS will not apply. If you are withdrawing before 5 years, but due to the reason of employee ill health, accident, shutting down of business, no TDS will apply. But if you are withdrawing before 5 years and it was not due to any of those reasons, then it becomes taxable. And if it is taxable, then 192A will also apply. How much? 10% TDS. If the threshold limit is more than the amount which you are withdrawing is more than 50,000, TDS will be deducted on the entire amount. Let's say you are withdrawing 60,000, TDS on 10%, 6,000 will be deducted, right? So this is 192A, TDS on premature withdrawal. Premature, why I'm saying premature? Because you are withdrawing it before 5 years. TDS deductor would be the trustee of that employee provident fund, whosoever is maintaining that provident fund. Whenever they will be releasing the amount, they will be deducting TDS. TDS deductor is an employee. At the time of payment, 10% TDS if the aggregate amount is more than 50,000 rupees. And here also I have mentioned that no TDS if this income is exempt, in which case this income will be exempted. If you are withdrawing it after 5 years, this income is exempted. If withdrawal is due to accident, ill health, or discontinuance of business, then also if it is you are withdrawing before 5 years, this amount will be exempted. So if this amount is altogether exempted, there is no question of TDS. Got it? So this is 192A. Now let me discuss section 192 also, that is TDS on salary. This is again a very easy section. Section 192. This is TDS on salary. Who will deduct TDS on salary? The employer. So let's say there is a person who is an employer and they are giving salary to employee every month, as and when they are making the payment of salary, as and when they are making the payment. So if you ask me the time of deduction, at the time of payment of salary, as and when we are paying the salary, payment of salary, we will be deducting TDS. We will be deducting TDS, right? Second thing is that what would be the rate of TDS? What would be the rate of TDS? So there is no such rate. We will deduct TDS on an average rate basis. There is no such rate, but we will deduct TDS on average rate basis, average rate. And also we will consider cess also while deducting TDS. We will also consider cess, right? So how does it work? I'll tell you very practically how does it work. Let's say, just think very practically and it is very easy to understand. Let's say there is a person, Mr. Amit. This is previous year 23-24. This is just started, right? This year has just started and Amit is an employee and he's working with, let's say he's working with Tata Motors Limited. This person is working with Tata Motors, right? And Tata Motors is giving him salary. Let's say the salary amount is 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh per month, basic salary, DA, etc. It is 1 lakh rupees per month. This Tata Motors is giving. And this is the first month. Let's say this is the first month of this year. In previous year 23-24, this is the first month we are giving him salary on last day of every month we used to give. On 30th of April, we are giving him salary. On 30th April, we are giving him salary. And at the time of payment, as in when we are releasing salary, we have to deduct TDS also. Now, how much TDS Tata Motors should deduct? They will have to deduct TDS under section 192. Section 192 will apply whenever any employer is giving salary to their employee, they will have to deduct TDS under section 192 at the time of payment. So April salary is going, let's say, on 30th of April. On 30th of April 2023, we are giving him salary. So how much TDS we have to deduct? So first of all, once we will be giving them salary. So first of all, in the month of April, before this date, we will intimate this person. This happens practically. every employer sends an intimation, sends an email to their employees. First of all, they ask Mr. Amit, they will ask Mr. Amit or to any of their employees. They first ask, they shoot an email in the month of April itself, in the beginning of the year. Every year, in every organization, it happens. You receive an email from your employer, from your accounts department. You receive an email, and in that email, it is written that please declare, please declare that which regime you will be following. We need declaration. We need declaration from you that which regime you will be following, whether you are following default tax regime this year or you will be following. We will ask from employee. So every employer during the month, in the very first month, let's say in the first week of April or second week of April, before this date, generally it happens before 15th of April. So we ask the employee that which regime he would like to follow, whether he will be following default tax regime or this person would be following optional tax regime. So they ask whether you are following which regime you will be following. So they will answer which regime they will follow. In case if they don't answer, we will assume that that person will be following default tax regime, obviously, right? So either they can tell us that which regime they will be adopting. If they have not told us, sometimes generally people delete these mails. They don't reply to these mails. In that case, Tata Motors will think that they will be following default tax regime, right? Okay. First of all, regime, let's say this person has said that I'll be following optional tax regime. Okay. If this person has said that I'll be following optional tax regime, they also have to declare whether they will be investing somewhere in 80C, 80D, 80E, etc. in any of the section of chapter 6A, whether they will be depositing any amount. Let's say this person is paying, must be paying his tuition fees for their children. Let's say this person is paying principal repayment of housing loan, or this person pays the LIC premium. So they also declare that if they say that I'll be following optional tax regime, then they also declare if they would like to get a deduction of chapter 6A, or if they are following default tax regime, we understand chapter 6A deduction is not available. It is only for 80CCD2, 80CCH2 or 80JJAA, right? So let's say this person says that I'll be following optional tax regime, and also in 80C, etc. He says that I'll be depositing, because this year has just started. Although he has not paid the tuition fees for their children, although this person has not paid the EMI also of their house so that we can calculate the principal repayment, but right now he's just declaring, he's just giving a temporary declaration. This person is just giving a temporary declaration, right? It is on presumptive basis that this person has given a declaration. Why? Because Tata Motors will deduct TDS accordingly. Tata Motors will deduct TDS accordingly. So let's say this person says that I'll be following optional tax regime, and I'll be also taking deduction in chapter 6A, let's say in ATC, 1,50,000 rupees. Tata Motors will get the email, Tata Motors will say okay. So in the month of April, what Tata Motors will see, how much amount we are paying to this person. Let's say we are paying him 1 lakh rupees. So they will calculate his tax on provisional basis. They will calculate his tax on provisional basis. So let's say 1 lakh is the basic salary or DA, whatever it is. Let's say it's a taxable amount. So 1 lakh into 12 lakh rupees, let's say it would be his gross salary. And we understand from gross salary, we can have at least section 16 deduction, standard deduction, let's say we are giving 50,000. So his salary income will be 11,50,000. Let's say this person does not have any income from any other head. So this income will become his gross total income also, right? Salary 11.5. He has no other income from other sources, let's say. So GTI would be 11.5 lakh. And because this person has given us a declaration, although it was very temporary, but still we will consider this. So we will consider that this person will be getting reduction of chapter 6A, let's say 1,50,000 rupees. So his total income comes to 10 lakh, right? And on 10 lakh, Tata Motors will calculate a provisional tax. They will calculate a provisional tax. So on 10 lakh, they will calculate the tax as per optional scheme. On first 2.5 lakh nil, next 2.5 lakh 5%, next 5 lakh 20%. So you will apply that rate. So it will come to, tax will be 1,12,500. Plus you have to consider cess also. Please understand, in salary we have to consider cess also. So add 4% cess After cess, it will be, this is 4,500, and after cess, it would be 1,17,000. So what it is, this is a provisional tax which this person has to pay, which Amit has to pay. How much? 1,17,000 tax he has to pay. So what will Tata Motors do? In the month of April, in the first month itself, they will presume that the total tax of this year would be 1,17,000. So what they will do? They will deduct this TDS during this year. So what they will do? They will split this tax into 12 installments, right? Why? Because every month we will be giving salary to this person. So every month we will be deducting divided by 12. So just divide this by 12. It will be 9750. It would be 9750. So 9750 we will be deducting in the month of April. So in the month of April, when we were giving him a salary of 1 lakh, so what we will do? We will deduct 9750, and this would be 90,250. We would be giving it to Mr. Amit, right? 9750 will be deducting. So every month, whenever we will be giving 1 lakh rupees to this person, we will be deducting 9750, 9750. Let's say this person has given us a declaration at the end of the year. In fact, in the month of, let's say in January and in February, we will again give this person a email. Boss, you have given us a declaration. Boss, you have given us a declaration that you will be depositing 1,50,000 rupees in LIC premium for your tuition fees of your children or for your housing loan repayment, etc. Please give us an evidence also. So initially we have taken just a temporary declaration, but at the end of the year we will also gather the evidence also, whether you have deposited now. Please give us evidence. And if this person will give us evidence also, yes, he has what he has declared, he has also deposited it. If this person will give us evidence also, then again his tax will remain this, and 9750, 9750 will be debited, will be deducted each and every month, right? Although this much never comes in examination, because it has some other clauses also, right? Let's say if this person does not give us, initially this person gave a declaration that I'll be depositing 1.5 lakh, temporary declaration, but at the end of the year, let's say in the month of February or March, we have again intimated him, boss, you have given us a declaration in the beginning of the year that you will be depositing 1.5 lakh, please give us evidence. But let's say this person is not able to give us evidence. He was just given a temporary declaration, but now he is not giving us any evidence. In that case, Tata Motors will recompute their salary income. So what will Tata Motors do? Tata Motors, let's say they have intimated him in the month of February. They have intimated in the month of February that please give us a declaration by 15th of February. But this person has not given us in the intimation. Then Tata Motors will recalculate his tax. Then what will Tata Motors do? The gross total income was 11.50 lakh, but this person is not giving us a declaration. Sorry, he has given the declaration, but he is not giving us the evidence. So in that case, chapter 6A deduction, which we were initially thinking that he will take, but now he will not be able to get this deduction. Why? Because he has not deposited any amount. So his total income will be 11,50,000. What would be the tax on this amount? Let me calculate it quickly. It will be 1,57,500. It will not come in your examination, but just for the purpose of your knowledge, I'm explaining this. It would be 157,500. When it is happening somewhere in the month of February 2024. Some 1 or 2 months are left for this year, so it is happening somewhere in February 2024. We are recalculating his tax. Why? Because the declaration which he has given was wrong. He's not submitting evidence. So his tax would be 157,500. My calculation can go hayway, so just bear with this. Plus 4% cess. So it would be, if I add cess also, it would be 163,800. This would be the total amount of tax. Initially the tax was 117, but now the tax is 163,800. So in the month of February, accounts department of Tata Motors will recalculate his tax. So he will Tata Motors will say your tax is 163,800. Now we will going to increase the TDS amount. So what they will do is, because since April till January, they were deducting TDS of 9750. 9750 per month they were deducting. Tell me, for 10 months, from if you count from April to January, 10 months TDS has been deducted. How much it is? Into 10, 97,500 TDS is already deducted. So what Tata Motors will do in the month of February, in February and March, what will Tata Motors do? They will say, now your correct tax is 163,800, because initially we have calculated the tax provisionally. Now the correct tax is 163,800, and you have paid, as of now, we have already deducted 97,500. So how much is left? How much is left? This minus this, 66,300 is the remaining tax which needs to be submitted to the government. So in the month of February and March, we will split this into two installments in February and March, divided by 2. 33,150 tax will be deducted in the month of February. 33,150 tax will be deducted in the month of March. So we can deduct total 163,800, right? This will not come in an examination, but you should know this. This is how section 192 works, right? So it can also happen that the salary can increase during the year, or the person can leave also the organization during the year, but that will not, it never comes in your examination. This is so much detail, never comes in your examination. You should simply know that TDS under section 192 will only apply in the cases whenever the employer gives salary to employee, right? And what is the rate of TDS? There is no such rate of TDS. We deduct at the average rate. Whatever is the income of the employee, based on that income, we calculate the tax for the entire year, and we deduct tax at that particular rate only, right? And there are some few points extra also. Let's say if an employee is working with more than two employers, let's say there is an employee, Mr. A, he's working with two companies. Let's say he's working with XYZ Limited. And from XYZ Limited, he is getting a salary total. I'm doing a computed salary. Let's say he is getting a salary of 4 lakh rupees from XYZ Limited. Right? Tell me how much and this person says that, sir, I am following default tax regime. He has given us given a declaration that I am following default tax regime. So tell me how much TDS XYZ Limited will be deducting every month. So around 4 lakh, we will calculate the tax, but we understand that it is not more than 7 lakh. 7 lakh rebate would be there. So in that case, that tax would be zero. So Mr. A is not liable to pay taxes. So how much XYZ Limited would be deducting TDS? Zero. Why zero? Because there is no tax, right? They will calculate the tax on 4 lakh and there would be no tax, right? Let's say this person is simultaneously working with some other company also. This person is working with PQR Limited also. And from PQR Limited, this person is getting salary of 4.5 lakh. So this PQR Limited is giving salary of 4.5 lakh. How much would be the tax on 4.5 lakh? So we understand there would be rebate provisions, and on 4.5 lakh there would be no tax. So see here, look at this particular scenario. This person is working with two employers, and this XYZ Limited doesn't know that whether he is working with PQR. PQR don't know whether this person is working with XYZ Limited. They are paying 4 lakh rupees to Mr. A. No TDS. There would be no tax on 4 lakh. They were thinking, PQR was thinking that we are just paying 4.5 lakh. On 4.5 lakh, there would be tax, but after rebate, there would be no tax. So we will not be deducting any tax in that case. So no TDS will be deducted, but at the end of the year, what we will see that his salary income, when he will calculate his ROI, his salary income is 8.5 lakh, and there will be tax, right? So here, Indian government, the government of India is losing on the revenue amount. Why? Because there was tax, and tax was not coming on time. So there is a provision in 192. Although people don't follow this provision practically, but there is a provision. There is a provision that if the person is simultaneously working with more than one employer, so it is the responsibility of this person that he should disclose. He should disclose to any one employer. He should choose any one employer, either XYZ he can choose, or he can choose PQR also. And he will say that I am getting an income from other employer also. So let's say he chooses XYZ Limited. So he should declare to XYZ, sir, from you I get 4 lakh rupees salary, and from PQR also I get 4.5 lakh salary. I work there also. So he should, ideally, practically, people don't do these things. They don't declare such, they don't give such declaration, but yes, it is there in the law. You should do it, right? So here, what will happen if Mr. A will give this declaration that, sir, I am earning 4.5 lakh salary from there also, then XYZ Limited will take total amount into consideration. 4 lakh plus 4.5 lakh, 8.5 lakh into consideration. XYZ will calculate the tax on 8.5 lakh and they will deduct tax accordingly. Right? PQR will not deduct. Now XYZ will deduct. If A would have chosen, Mr. A would have chosen PQR Limited, then they will say, sir, I'm also working with this particular company. From there, I'm getting 4 lakh rupees. Then PQR would be responsible. So this person has to choose any one employer and where he should disclose the salary income from other employers also. Second thing is that, let's say if it is not case of dual employment, let's say Mr. A is getting salary income from XYZ rupees 4 lakh. And if Mr. A has some other income also, whether in house property, whether in PGBP, capital gain, or IFOS, then Mr. A, ideally people don't do like this, but still there is a provision that they should submit the income details also to this particular employer, and this particular employer is under an obligation to consider that income also. So let's say if Mr. A is earning house property income of 3 lakh rupees, so he should declare his income also 3 lakh rupees. Sir, I am getting 3 lakh rupees as house property. So XYZ would be under an obligation to deduct TDS from the entire amount, including that house property income also. If this person is having PGBP, capital gain, IFOS, so if A declares such amount to XYZ Limited, so XYZ Limited has to deduct TDS including that amount also, right? So if there is income from other heads, he can also declare that. But let's say if there are losses from other heads, can he also declare that? The answer is it will not be considered. So if A Limited, Mr. A will say, sir, I have loss from capital gain, I have loss from IFOS, or I have loss from the other sources, please consider that also and set it off, and then you will deduct TDS. No. If you will bring losses, then we will not consider. We will only consider in that case only this income. If you bring positive income to us, we will consider that while deducting your 192 TDS. But if you will bring losses to us, we are not going to consider. But yes, the exception is if the person is following optional tax regime, and if this person can bring house property loss, the house property loss this person can bring, that is an exception. If he brings house property losses to the employer, then they can consider house property losses. And you understand, maximum of rupees 2 lakh, right? Maximum 2 lakh can be set off. Why I have said optional tax regime? Because you understand, if this person is following default tax regime, then house property losses cannot be set off from other heads, right? If this person is following default tax regime, then house property losses cannot be set off from other heads. Only it will be in the case of optional tax regime, right? So this is section 192 of salary. Got it? You can read that 192. Everything is there. Okay. Now all the sections are formally over and there are some miscellaneous provisions. Let us discuss those miscellaneous provisions now. Okay. The first point says that when an amount is paid net of tax, the taxability is to be calculated by grossing up the amount. That we have already discussed. You don't need to remember the section number, but you always know that whatever the amount which we receive after TDS, we have to gross it up. This, although we have already discussed, but let me just recap that provision. Okay, let's say in your P&L account, in your examination, a P&L account is given to you, and in that P&L account there is, in your income side, there is sales or some other type of income is given over there, and also it is mentioned that you have received interest. Let's say it is mentioned that you have received interest of 90,000 rupees and it is written net amount. Net means that this is after TDS you have received 90,000 rupees. So first of all, we understand that 90,000 rupees is not your PGBP. It is if it is given in your P&L account, please take it out 90,000 from there. It is not PGBP income. Second thing, it is IFOS. So how much you will take it in IFOS? Is it 90,000 the net amount or the gross amount? You will take the gross amount, right? So how you will do it? You understand that if this is an interest, let's say this is interest from securities, or even if it is interest other than securities, you understand the TDS rate is 10% in that case. So whatever amount which we receive is after TDS. So if the TDS rate is 10%, so this amount is 90%. Got it? Simple mathematics. So what you have to do is, when you will be calculating your income, whenever you will be calculating your taxable income, so you understand that 10% TDS is deducted and this amount is equal to 90%. So how much TDS was deducted? You can calculate that 10% was deducted. How? 90,000 amount is equal to 90%. So how much is the TDS amount? 10%. So this is 10,000 rupees is deducted, or even you can directly calculate. What I'll do is here is that my income, that is at gross level, how much it would be. Gross means before TDS. We understand that this amount is equal to 90%. So what would have been my income? 100%. Simply you don't even have to calculate this amount. You can directly calculate your income, that your income is 90,000, that is net amount, and this is equal to, let's say the rate of TDS is 10%, so this is equal to 90%. Let's say if there it's not income, let's say if this would have been casual income, so you understand the rate of TDS is 30%, so in that case what you receive is equal to 70%. Then in denominator you can show 70, but here the tax rate was TDS is 10%, that is the reason what we receive is equal to 90 into 100. 100 is the total income, so how much it will be? 1 lakh rupees. So this provision is saying that whenever you will receive the amount that is net of TDS, you should always tell the examiner, you have to always make it at a gross level before TDS, right? So this is my 1 lakh rupees. Some people also say it other way around. Some people say that the TDS which is deducted is also a part of your income. Yes, we can say that. Why? Because see, you receive 90,000 rupees. 90,000 is your income, that is net amount. But you have to make it at the gross level, or you can say whatever the TDS is deducted, that is also your income. So our TDS was deducted how much? 10,000 rupees. So I can say it other way around also, that whatever the TDS is deducted is my income, 1 lakh rupees. So 1 lakh rupees is your income. Either you can show it by this method, or you can show it by this method. This is one and the same thing. The crux is that you have to show it before TDS, it's your income. But yes, I have already mentioned that 194N TDS is not your income, because in fact, on all the sections, for all the sections, whenever we apply TDS, it is actually on your income, but except for 194N, because 194N is not your income. Second is tax on non-monetary perquisites. If you remember your salary chapter, there I have told you that if your employer has provided you non-monetary perquisites, let's say for example, employer has provided you with a motor car facility or a rent-free accommodation, and if you ask your employer that please pay tax on this particular perquisite also, so in that case, if your employer pays tax on that particular amount on non-monetary perquisite, so it will not be added in your income. It will not be added in your income. It is exempt under section 10. If you remember that salary chapter, we have already discussed. And you also know in PGBP, we have done section 40 small a, even it will not be allowed in the hands of employer. If the employer is giving us perquisite, that's fine. But if the employer is paying tax on that non-monetary perquisite, that is not even allowed in the hands of employer. It is not considered as a PGBP expense. If you remember that section 40 small a that we have discussed in the chapter of PGBP. So I was saying that whenever TDS will be deducted, it will become your income, except the two. One is 194N, because 194N is TDS on cash on withdrawal. That is not your income. Second is tax on non-monetary perquisites. Tax on non-monetary perquisite. This is also not your income. This is exempt under section 10. Otherwise, whenever TDS is deducted, it becomes your income. I can say it this way, that you have to take it at a gross level, that is before TDS, or if you are taking at net amount, you have to add the TDS back to get your correct income. One and the same thing, right? So this is written over here. When an amount is paid net of tax, taxability is to be calculated by grossing up the amount. Exception is tax on non-monetary perquisite paid by the employer, that I have discussed. Even the same thing is written over here in the fifth point also. Same thing is written over here. Tax deducted is equal to income. Whatever the tax is deducted, it is nothing but your income. Why? Because we always take it at a gross level before TDS. So in this case, whatever is the tax deducted, it will form part of your income, except 194N is not your income, and tax on non-monetary perquisite is not your income because of section 10 provision, because section 10 exempts such income, right? So here it is, both these exceptions are written over, right? What else? This we have already discussed. If you are paying any amount to government or to RBI, then there would be no TDS. So whenever you pay any sum to government or to RBI, there would be no TDS. No need to remember the section number, but you please remember that examiner will confuse you that you are paying there is an assessee who is paying the amount to central government or to RBI. Please do not deduct TDS in that case, right? Section 197, 197A, we have already discussed in length in the last lecture. We have already discussed about 197 and 197A. 197 is where you take the permission of assessing officer. 197A, you don't have to take any permission. You just simply give a declaration in form 15G. And if the person is a senior citizen, then 15H. That you can read it. That we have already discussed in length in the last lecture, right? Do you remember that? Okay. Duty of TDS deductor. Now tell me, what is the duty of TDS deductor? Now you know, first of all, that person has to deduct the TDS, right? Second duty is to deposit that TDS. Third is to file the TDS return. But we understand that there are some special section where there is no separate TDS return. Whenever you will deposit it, that challan is equal to the return also. That we have already discussed in section 194IA, 194IB. What is 194IA? Immovable property, 50 lakh, more than 50 lakh rupees. IB is TDS on rent, that individual or HGF who are not covered under section 194I, and if they are paying rent of more than 50,000 rupees, that is 194 IB. And 194M, what is 194M? Where you were paying more than 50 lakh rupees for contract, for professional services, or for commission or brokerage. If you are paying, if you are an individual or HGF who are not covered under section contract 194C, professional services 194J, brokerage or commission 194H. If you are not covered under those section, and if you are paying the amount which is more than 50 lakh rupees to some person, then you have to deduct TDS at a rate of 5%. That we have discussed in 194M. So in these three sections, there is no requirement to file separate TDS statement. There is no requirement to file TDS return. In that case, whenever you will deposit the tax, it will be considered as a challan come return. But for other sections, you have to file. This is the duty of the TDS deductor, that they have to submit the TDS return also. Now you'll understand that at what frequency we have to file these TDS returns and all. Okay, but the last responsibility of TDS deductor is to issue the TDS certificate. So you understand there are four responsibility of TDS deductor. So TDS deductor has four responsibilities. One is they have to deduct the TDS. First of all, deduct the TDS, and if you will not deduct the TDS, we are going to levy interest on that also. So if you will not deduct the TDS, there is a penalty, like we will charge 1% per month interest also. 1% per month, a part of the month we will charge 1%, that I'll be discussing right now. Second thing is that, second responsibility is that, first responsibility, second responsibility is that you have to deposit the TDS also. Whatever the TDS which you have deducted, you have to deposit this. When you have to deposit it? By 7th of next month, that I'll be discussing. So in any month, if you have deducted the TDS, then you have to deposit that amount by next month, 7th day, right? Let's say if you have deducted the TDS in the month of January, then by 7th of February, you should deposit the TDS. If you will not deposit, then we will charge interest at a rate of 1.5% per month. Interest is there. Third is the responsibility is that you have to submit the TDS return also. If you will not submit the TDS return, there is the penalty of 200 rupees per day. Is the penalty. Everything is written in the book. I'll make it revise also. And the last responsibility is that TDS certificate. You have to issue the TDS certificate. What is this TDS certificate? This is form number 16. In case of salary, it is form number 16. In case of salary, that is in case of section 192, it is form number 16. And also in case of 194P, that is pension and interest which you are getting in the same bank account. This is also a sort of salary. In section 19 for section 192P, 194P also, form 16 is there. Form 16 is TDS certificate. For other section, it is form 16A. For other section, we have form 16A. But for a special section, 194IA, 194IB, 194M, we have form for 194IA, we have form 16B, IB is 16C, and for M is 16D. These are TDS certificate. These are TDS certificate. What is TDS certificate? Because if we have deducted the TDS of any person, then that person needs evidence. That is the reason we have to issue TDS certificate. So tell me, what are the four responsibilities of TDS deductor? So now we know, first of all, we have to deduct the TDS. Second is we have to deposit the TDS. Third is we have to furnish the TDS return. And the last is the issuing of TDS certificate. So this is written over here that we have already discussed. Most of the things we have already covered. Duty of TDS deductor. Section 200, no need to remember the section number. First of all, you have to deduct the TDS, okay, and then you have to deposit the TDS to the income tax department. When you have to deposit it at, if any month you have deducted it, you have deducted the TDS, by 7th of next month you should deposit this. So by 7th of next month you should deposit it, but for the month of March you should deposit it by 30th of April. So we have given some extra days for the month of March. Generally for the month of March it would have been 7th of April, but we have given some 20-25 days extra to you. By 30th of April you can deposit it. So I'm again repeating. So first responsibility is to deduct the TDS. First responsibility is to deduct the TDS. Once you have deducted the TDS, once the TDS is deducted in any month, let's say it is deducted in the month of April 23. If it is deducted in the month of April 23, then you should deposit this amount by 7th of May. 7th of May 23, you should go and deposit this amount. If you will not deposit, then we will levy interest on you. How much interest? If you have not deducted, then 1%. If you have not deposited, 1.5%. Why extra? Because if you have not deposited, it means that you have collected the amount of TDS and you are keeping this money with yourself and you have not deposited to the government. In that case, government will charge extra interest from you. That is 1.5%. You understand why? Where 1% will be applied and where 1.5% will be applied. 1.5% is a major default you have made. Why major default? Because you have kept the amount with yourself. So if you have not deducted, then 1%. But if you have not deposited means that you have deducted and you are keeping that money with yourself. It's not your money. It is income tax department's money. So if you have not deposited the amount, then there would be a interest rate of 1.5%. I'll just be discussing. Okay. So whenever you have deducted in any month, you have to deposit it by 7th of next month. So let's say if it is April, by 7th of May, if you have deducted somewhere in the month of May, by 7th of June and so on. Let's say it is in the month of January, then go and deposit it by 7th of February. Easy. If you have deducted in the month of February, then please go and deposit it by 7th of March. But in case you have deducted in the month of March, if any TDS is deducted in the month of March, then we are giving you some extra days. In the last month, we are giving you some extra days. For the month of March, it should be 7th of April, but we are giving you 30th of April. Got it? These are the dates which are quite important. You should remember that. So TDS deposited to the income tax department by 7th of next month. By 7th of next month. Got it? But for the month of March, it is up till 30th of April. So what? I'll come to this portion after 2 minutes. So first, let me discuss this point. Failure to deduct. If the person is required to deduct TDS and if that person has not deducted TDS, then 1% per month interest rate will be charged. And if this person has not deposited the TDS, then 1.5% per month simple interest will be charged, right? For every month or part of the month, 1% or 1.5% as the case may be. So failure to deduct. If you have not deducted the TDS, then 1% per month simple interest for every month or part of the month. Got it? Part of the month also 1%. So let's say if you have not deducted the TDS and it's been 4.5 months, 4.5 months. So 4 months also 1% per month. That means 4%. And part of the month, 0.5 month, it will also be considered as a full month. So what you will do for 4.5 months, you will consider this as a 5 months period. And the interest rate will be applied for 1% per month. That is 5%. For every month, 1%. So 5 months, 5%, right? Even if you have not deducted the TDS and it's been 4 months, 1 day, 4 months, 1 day also, then part of the month should always be considered as a full month. So should we consider it 4 months or we'll consider it 5 months? We will consider it 5 months because this Provin is saying that part of the month will also be considered as a full month. So here, even 4 months, 1 day will be considered as 5 months. So for every month we have 1%. So for 5 months we have 5%, right? So 1% per month simple interest for every month or part of the month from the date TDS was deductible up to the date of actual deduction. From the date, and this how you will count your number of months from the date on which you should deduct the TDS. It will be counted from that day till that date whenever it is actually deducted. So please count your number of months. If it is exactly 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, then you can take that month. If it is part of the month, please round it, always round it up, right? And if you have not deposited the TDS, so this is a major penalty. So here we are going to charge 1.5%. So if, because now you are using the money of government, this money belongs to government, why you are keeping it with yourself? Go and deposit to the income tax department. So in that case, 1.5% per month, simple interest from every month or part of the month. Part of the month, again, you have to round it off. Even if it is 6 months, 2 days, please take it as 7 months. And for 1.5 per month, for 7 months, it would be 7 into 1.5, right? From the date on which tax was deducted, from we will start this 1.5% from the date when tax was deducted, from the time that you are keeping this money with yourself. From the date when the TDS is deducted up to the date of deposit, we will charge 1.5%. So these two are also important, right? Okay, my first responsibility is deduct the TDS. If you will not deduct, 1% per month. If you will not deposit, 1.5% per month. Okay. And your third responsibility is please furnish your TDS returns. Furnish your TDS returns also. And in three cases, we understand in these three cases, 194 IA, IB, M, there is no requirement to furnish separate returns, because whenever you will be depositing the amount, that challan will be equal to your return, that we call challan cum return. So for that, we have TDS return form 26QB, 26QC, 26QD. For 194 IA, we have 26QB. For 194 IB, what is 194 IB? TDS on rent by individual ratio who are not covered under 194 I, right? Rupees 50,000 rupees per month or more. So 194 IB, you have to file the return under section 26 QC, and 194 M is QD. What is 194 M? 50 lakh rupees, right? More than 50 lakh rupees if you are giving for contract, for professional services, or for commission or brokerage. And the TDS certificate is in the form of 16B, 16C, 16D. We have already discussed it many times. Okay. So you have to furnish the TDS return also. But for other scenarios, you have to furnish the TDS return also. That to quarterly statement. That to quarterly statement. Whenever any quarter will be over, you have to furnish that statement by 31st of next month. By 31st of next month. So by 31st of this month succeeding the relevant quarter. This means that if this quarter is April to June. So whatever TDS you have deducted, who will furnish the TDS return? TDS deductor. So let's say I am a company. There are so many employees working for me, and for every employee, whenever I pay salary, I deduct TDS also, right? Every month I'll be paying them salary, I'll be deducting TDS, I'll be depositing that also by 7th of next month, right? But I will furnish a statement to the income tax department. Every month should I go and furnish the statement? No, they are saying that you have to furnish the statement on quarterly basis. So let's say whatever the TDS I have deducted in the month of April, May, and June, that is first quarter, I should furnish the statement by 31st of the succeeding month. So April, May, June, what is the next month? July. So by 31st July, I have to furnish this statement. If I'll not furnish this statement, 200 rupees per day is the penalty for that also, right? So if I am, let's say 10 days late, 20 days late, so 200 multiplied by 200, this would be the penalty, but this penalty cannot be more than the TDS amount. So whatever is the TDS for this particular quarter, this penalty cannot go more than that. So maximum penalty is the amount of TDS which is mentioned in that particular return, right? So if it is July to September quarter, so whatever TDS I have deducted in the month of July, August, and September, I'll be furnishing the statement to the income tax department by 31st of October. By 31st October, that is the next month after September, and on 31st day. For October to December, October, November, December, whatever TDS has been deducted, I'll furnish the statement by 31st of January. But in the month of quarter ending March, I'll be getting extra benefit. Why extra benefit is being given to the last month or the last quarter, because in last quarter, last month, we have so many things to do. We have so many things to do that this is actually the closing month or closing quarter. That is the reason income tax has given some extra advantage over here. So for January, February, March, it should be ideally be 30th of April, right? But they are giving us a date. They have given us 1 month extra for that. That is 31st of May. I have actually highlighted this also, right? TDS returns, TDS certificates we have already discussed. For these, you understand what are TDS certificates. Salary and 194P. TDS certificate is Form 16. You must have heard this Form 16. Form 16 is issued on annual basis. On annual basis, you don't get, if you work somewhere. Please don't mug this up. Don't mug up this, right? Because this is something very logical. When you're working somewhere, let's say your parents are working, or any of your brother, sister, cousin is working somewhere, say they get salary every month, their TDS is deducted every month, we understand, but they don't get form 16 every month. Form 16 is an annual affair. It's an annual affair. So once the year is over, then your employer will be issuing you form 16. So form 16 is annually, but other forms are quarterly basis. So if your TDS is deducted, let's say under section 193 or 194 IA or 194B or any of those section, then TDS certificate you will be getting on quarterly basis, right? Not that important, but yes, you can read them once. This we have discussed. Okay, the last is section 206AA and 206AB. These are quite important section, although I've already discussed 206AA. Let's say the person for whom we are deducting TDS, if that person has not furnished the PAN number to us, or in that case, if this person has furnished a wrong PAN number to us, then the TDS rate can go 20% also. How we will do it? Let's say this is Mr. X. He has given some contract to Mr. Y. He has given some contract to Mr. Y, and section 194C would be applicable in that case, let's say. So Mr. X, last year turnover was more than 1 crore 50 lakh, as the case may be, and Mr. X is supposed to deduct TDS, right? But Mr. Y has not furnished his PAN number. Mr. Y has not furnished his PAN number. If he will furnish his PAN number, TDS rate will be 1%. TDS rate will be 1%. That is the rate mentioned in that section. Whatever is mentioned in that section, whatever is the TDS section which is applicable, here it is 194C. So under 194C, TDS rate would be 1%, right? But in that case, if this person has furnished the PAN number, no problem, 1%. But if this person has not furnished the PAN number, so first we will see what is the TDS rate in that section number. So in this section 194C, we have TDS rate 1% and 20%, whichever is higher. So here it will be 20%. So if this person will furnish the PAN number, we will deduct 1% TDS. If this person will not furnish the PAN number, we are going to deduct 20% TDS, right? So whichever is higher, you have to take that. So let's say if this, let's say this is Sony Entertainment Television. Sony Entertainment Television, and there is Mr. A. He went to that game show and he wins the amount also. Let's say he wins 10 lakh rupees. So we will be deducting, Sony Entertainment Television will be deducting TDS under section 194B. How much would be the TDS? 30%. So Mr. A will furnish his PAN number. Then also we know the rate of TDS is 30%. In case Mr. A does not furnish his PAN number, so in that case we have this section. It says that whatever is the rate applicable to this section, that is 30% or 20%, whichever is higher here will remain 30%. So in that case, either Mr. A will, for this section 194B or 194BB or 194BA. So in that case, we understand if we compare 30 with 20, the higher will always be 30. So we can say whether you are furnishing your PAN number or you are not furnishing your PAN number, your TDS amount will be 30% in that case. But in these type of cases, in these extreme cases, because otherwise, if this person would have furnished his PAN number, the TDS under section 194C would have been 1%. Otherwise, if he will not furnish, then TDS rate would be 20%, right? Here in this section, it is also mentioned that you have to compare 3 rates. You have to compare 3 rates. So here you have just compared 2 rates. So actually we have to compare 3 rates, but that third one is not that important. It was It was relevant at the time of COVID also, when government has prescribed some other rates for TDS. But right now there is no some other rates which are prescribed as enforced. Whatever is mentioned in the section number, the rates are that itself. But in this section it is mentioned that whatever is rate prescribed in that particular section, whatever is the section in which we are deducting the TDS, whatever is the rate prescribed, and it is also written whatever is the rate in force. Rate in force means whatever, if the central government has prescribed some other rates for TDS, then we have to consider that rate also, or 20%, whichever is higher, we have to take this rate. So generally, this particular point is not very relevant these days. It was relevant at the time of COVID. At the time of lockdown, it was important, because at that time, a government has prescribed some other rates. In fact, in these sections, there were some rates written, but in a rate in force, they have reduced some rates. So in that case, rate in force was something different. What was mentioned in this particular section, but now there is no such thing as of now. So there is no rate in force as of now. But yes, in the section it is written that you have to compare all these three rates, and whichever is higher, you have to deduct TDS as per that. So it is 20%. So a TDS can go up to 20%. But yes, if the normal rate of TDS is 30%, in case of 194B, double B, and BBA, no, 194B, 194 double B, not BBA, it's a BA, 194B online gaming. Then it could be 30%. Here, one more thing, there is one section which is pending, because I have discussed with you that I'll be discussing with the TCS provision. So there is a section 194Q. If you will look at 194Q rate, TDS rate, in 194Q, the rate is just 0.1%. The TDS rate is just very minor. It is just 0.1%. So in case if this section would be applicable, if that person, the person who is receiving the amount, if that person is not furnishing his PAN number, then 194Q will say the rate is 0.1%, and 20%, whichever is higher, 20% would be the very high rate. In that case, it would be a big hardship on that person, right? So in that case, they have said that if it is a case of 194Q, we will not consider 20%. In that case, we will just consider 5%. Otherwise, it would have been a lot of hardship on that particular person, right? Because you can imagine 0.1% and 20%. So there is a huge difference, right? So for 194Q, although I know that I have not discussed 194Q with you, I'll be discussing it in the next session when I'll be discussing TCS. But yes, if you will see in 194Q, the TDS rate is just 0.1%. So in this section, it is written that if it is a case of 194Q, then we will not apply 20%, we will apply just 5%. Otherwise, for all other sections, 20%. So here it is mentioned, this is something which is important, right? Mandatory requirement to furnish PAN number. So that person should furnish their PAN number. If PAN is not furnished by the deductee means the person who is receiving the amount. If he is not furnishing his PAN number, then the TDS rate will be rate prescribed in respective section, or rate in force. Rate in force is not that important because as of now it is irrelevant, or 20%, whichever is higher. But in case of 194Q, it is 5%, right? Okay, next section is 206AB. This is also important. I'll discuss this section also with you. This section is applicable. First of all, understand that this section is applicable only in case of non-filers of R. Who is this non-filer? So we understand we did in section 194, and also that whose TDS, whose income tax return is not filed of last 3 years up to the due date, and we have to see only those 3 years whose due date has expired. Okay, that was in 194N. But for the purpose of this section, which I am discussing it with you right now, 206AB, for this purpose, a non-filer is a person who has not submitted the return up to the due date only of the last year. In 194N, we were seeing last 3 years. But here, we will just see your last year return. We will check whether you have filed your return on time or not. Which last year whose due date should be expired? That last year due date should be expired. So if it is previous year 23-24, the last year is ideally previous year 22-23, but provided the due date of this should be expired. Then you can take previous year 22-23. Otherwise, you have to take previous year 21-22. That we have already discussed. That point you already know. We have discussed in section 194N. So you have to take that last year where due date is expired, right? Okay. So who is a non-filer? Two conditions must be satisfied. Two conditions must be satisfied. First of all, last year return was not submitted on time. You understand what is last year? It could be last year also, if the due date is expired, or it will be last to last year. But here you have to see only 1 year. In 194N, you were seeing 3 years. Here you will see only 1 year. Second thing is that your aggregate of TDS plus TCS should be at least 50,000 or more. Then this section will be applicable to. Then you will be considered as a non-filer. Let's say there is any person who has not submitted last year return on time, who has not. So can we call him non-filer? No. Please look at this condition also. You both the conditions should be satisfied. Their TDS and TCS. I understand that I have not discussed TCS with you, but you don't have to do anything of TCS right now. You just have to aggregate that TDS and TCS. So just aggregate the TDS of TCS of that last year. If it was less than 50,000, then this person is not a non-filer. This section will not be applicable to that particular person. So this section will only be applicable if both the conditions should be satisfied. One condition, the return should not be filed or is filed after the due date, right? Which return? Only last year return. Which last year? Where due date is expired. Second thing is that the aggregate of TDS and TCS should be at least 50,000 or more. Even if it is 50,000, yes, this condition is satisfied, right? If it is less than 50,000, no, this condition will not be satisfied. So it is only for those people who pay some good amount of tax, right? It is only for those people who pay some good amount of tax. That is the reason they are saying that their TDS and TCS was at least 50,000 rupees or more. Then they will become non-filer, right? See. So this section 206AB, this is only in case of non-filers. If you are not a non-filer, this section will not be applicable, right? So I have already mentioned over here who is a non-filer. Non-filer of ROI for the purpose of this section. For the purpose of this section, are you all getting this? For the purpose of this section, non-filer is an assessee who has not furnished the ROI of last year. Which last year? Where due date has expired. Plus, second condition is aggregate of TDS and TCS was 50,000 or more. So if both these conditions are satisfied, then you become non-filer. And if, let's say, if your TDS and TCS is not more than 5,000, even your return was filed late, but your TDS and TCS aggregate is less than 50,000 rupees, you will not become non-filer and this section will not be applicable to you. So this section is applicable only to those non-filers. You can understand the logic. This section is applicable only to those non-filers who have not filed their return and they were supposed to pay a hefty amount of tax, at least 50,000 rupees or more, right? So what did this section says? If you are a non-filer, then TDS, we will double the TDS rate. We will just double the TDS rate. So they are saying that if you are a non-filer, then we will double the TDS rate 2 into the rate prescribed in the respective section. We will make it twice. We will double the TDS rate, or 2 into rate in force. You understand rate in force is not so relevant for this year. So rate in force is nothing. The central government has not given any special rates for this year. The rates will be as mentioned in the section. But yes, it is written in this particular section. That is the reason I have mentioned here also. But practically it is 2 into double the rate, or 5%, whichever is higher, or 5%, whichever is higher, right? And section 206AB, this section is not applicable on 192. 192 is TDS on salary. This section will not apply. Even if the assessee is a non-filer, this section will not apply. 192A, premature withdrawal from RPF. 194B, BA, double B. You understand casual income 30%. 194 IA, IBM. IBM, you understand special sections, right? And 194N for cash withdrawal. See, it's easy to remember. See, 192 and 192A, you can group them together. Salary and premature withdrawal from RPF. You can group them together one. This is one group. 194B, BA and double B is one group, 30% one. IA, IBM is another group, special sections, which where 10 is also not required, you can deduct TDS. And 194N is for special section again for cash withdrawal, where you don't have income, but still TDS is deducted. So this section will not be applicable to these particular provisions. So it means that even if the person is a non-filer, and if we are deducting TDS under any of these sections, then we will deduct only at that respective rate. We will not deduct at twice the rates, right? So this was your TDS finally. So I think it's okay. It's quite a long class, but still, I believe that now you understand the concepts of TDS thoroughly, and now you must have got the confidence also. So in the next lecture, we'll continue with TCS. I would request you to please share this video with your friends as well. I would highly request you to share the video with your friends as well. And please give me a comment here that how you have liked this video, right? Bye and take care.